possible to get the committee a list of the proposed SLS cargo-only missions over the next few weeks?
Yes, sir. Once the budget's out, we'll scramble up and get those to you.
Okay.
I'll be back in a
All right,
second,
let's
guys.
say I got
I'm gonna
about
keep this
2
going.
minutes, 2.5 minutes left. Let me just
they're
jump
wrapping up
over.
now. Hold on.
I recently suggested to Joel Raymond of the U.S. Space Force that NASA and the Air Force could benefit from more closely tracking the development funds each agency invests in commercial launches. In fact, when one agency ignores the funds invested in a company by the other agency, I think the criteria for making awards through competition gets really skewed. Do you have any thoughts on this? Can you speak to this with General Raymond to establish a way to track investments and to make sure that the information is publicly available?
Raymond is the guy that runs Space Force.
I can't speak to the issue of publicly available right now. I just simply don't know. But the genesis of the idea that you suggest is an excellent one. Instead of each agency being in its own stovepipe and having its own R&D, you ought to be sharing this across agencies so you get the additional energy that would come from that cross-pollination, as well as you eliminate some of the duplication.
Not a word.
This was one of the original ideas of developing DARPA, so that you could get a forward-looking agency on R&D that would be inputting to all the agencies that would benefit from that. So we ought to be doing that. And we're going to certainly try to continue to do that. I think it will be of value that Pam Melroy will eventually be confirmed and be our deputy director at NASA, and she was a leader of the DARPA team after she left the astronaut
is not
office.
A word, guys.
So I think you see where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, if you could, have a chance, like I said, I've already approached General Raymond about this, and I know he would like to speak with you. And so if you could speak with him personally on this, I think it'd be
he'll talk to you. You talk to me.
A great thing for
to
make everything more efficient. So I see my time's expired, so I'll go back to the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Adderholt. At this time, the chair recognizes Representative Stephen Palazzo for 5 minutes.
Hey, Mr. Palazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrators, it's good to be back. Again, appreciate your vast knowledge of all things NASA and how important NASA is in space dominance, in American-led leadership in space. I remember back when we used to have Administrator Bolden come testify in front of our committee on science, space, and technology. I want to say at the time there was something in the paper about an incident of where a researcher, it may have been at Ames, I don't want to throw any names out there, but it was a research facility going on where a guy got on a plane and was heading back to mainland China with a laptop with a lot of proprietary data. And I know the administrator then committed to the committee to foster a serious attitude about security breaches and protecting the America's assets, which is our research and technology. And now I'm just reading, like on June 18th, NASA released an audit report that revealed multiple data breaches that occurred over the past 10 years at JPL. And the hackers were able to not only access the IT, they stole information about our mission to Mars. The hackers also accessed the IT network of NASA's Deep Space Network, which communicates between satellite dishes and active spacecraft. The hackers went undetected for almost a year. I know that's cyber. It's a little different than physically walking out of a building, but we know our foreign adversaries have been stealing data from us forever. That's how they were able to catch up and close that technological gap. Can you just tell me, Administrator Nelson, like, how, are you going to take security and the protection of America's secrets a little more seriously maybe than some other administrators?
You have exactly put your finger on theft,
I don't know. I watch maybe.
intelligent security isn't concerned that theft can occur with a hacksaw and a crowbar or a missing laptop. Theft today increasingly is cyber theft. You're looking at the former ranking member of the cyber subcommittee of the Senate Armed Services Committee. What I found in my years on the Intel Committee and the Armed Services Committee, that it was hard to get the private sector involved and serious about cybersecurity. Well, I suppose the pipeline problem that we just have suffered through is going to be another reminder. But when it comes to government, there's no excuse for slack cybersecurity. We had a big meeting on this just yesterday here in my early tenure. And it is of paramount importance to NASA, and especially with the high technology that we're dealing with, so many of our competitors would love to have. But that also means our contractors have got to have that same kind of security. So the FY22 request provides for the modernization and expansion of cybersecurity, including continuous monitoring infrastructure and threat detection tools, integrated enterprise logging, and assessment services for visibility, improving patch management, and a fully implemented controlled unclassified information program. These are vital to the protection of NASA's people, the public, and the mission success by ensuring that the cybersecurity that safeguards all of us against the malicious and unintentional breaches. And I'll just conclude by saying, how many times has your cell phone rung and it's somebody calling and saying, oh, you just lost such and such, and it's nothing but a fake call trying to get your private information?
That's true. Well, Administrator, thank you. And I know you're going to take security breaches extremely seriously. You know, the culture across government wide, I think we're starting to recognize we've lost hundreds of billions of dollars in intellectual property. It's all been outright theft by foreign adversaries. And listen, thanks again for your testimony here today. Look forward to serving with you. Hopefully we get together soon. And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry I went over my time, but I will yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Palazzo. At this time, the chair recognizes Mr. Klein for an additional 5 minutes of questions.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Administrator, coming from Florida, you have a good understanding and appreciation for the ground infrastructure that makes our whole space program possible. You talked about that a little bit earlier. As you're probably aware, Virginia owns and operates the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at NASA's Wallops Flight Facility on the Eastern Shore, and it supports NASA's commercial cargo program, science missions to the moon, and countless suborbital tests of sounding rockets. Industry partners Northrop Grumman with their Antares rocket and Cygnus spacecraft, and now Rocket Lab with their Electron rocket, are helping to drive a strong and growing space industrial base in Virginia. Hope you'll take the opportunity to see firsthand how this unique state spaceport works with NASA and industry to deliver on NASA mission priorities. And it's not too far from our nation's capital. So as you settle into your new role, I hope we can count on you to make plans to attend a launch in person at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport.
I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you'll come with me.
I certainly will. I appreciate that. The Artemis program to return American astronauts to the surface of the moon is very exciting, as you discussed. And with China becoming increasingly ambitious in its own efforts in space, it's more important than any time since the Cold War that America demonstrate to the world our preeminence in space exploration. Can you elaborate a little bit on why you believe NASA's Human Landing System award to SpaceX and your follow-on efforts for commercial delivery services to the moon present the best architecture to fulfill this important endeavor and stay ahead of China?
If you can see that,
Yep.
that's the lander on Mars. That photograph was sent last night by China.
Beautiful.
They are the second nation. Now, we've been there since the mid-1970s. However, they have demonstrated the sophisticated technology to go millions and millions of miles and successfully land and transmit back to Earth. So too, they're getting ready to have much larger spacecraft, a series of 3, land on the south pole of the moon. Why? That's where resources are, but that's also where water is. If you can find water, and there's water there, you can make fuel. We have a lander much smaller that's going in a couple of years to the South Pole. What I'm saying is we're suddenly realizing that we don't own all of this. And it is a very aggressive competitor. And I read to the committee earlier, this needs to be taken note of by the committee. This is in public reports that the Chinese government and the Chinese space program officials are studying the possibility of conducting a flyby and lunar landing in the decade of the 2020s. Now, that's published reports. In other words, they're going to be landing humans on the moon. That should tell us something about our need to get off our duff and get our human landing system program going vigorously. And NASA can't do it alone. You all are our partners. And I've suggested earlier in conversation with the committee that a good place to start that is not only the 22 budget, but also you've got the jobs bill coming along. And in the bosom of your committee, we have made specific recommendations as what is tied to jobs and infrastructure with regard to the human landing system.
And you believe that the award to SpaceX is the best way to fulfill this endeavor and stay ahead of China?
Well, that is done only to be in a blackout period because there's a protest of the bid, and around the 1st of August, we will find out what the GAO decides about the bid. If the bid is overturned, if the protest is honored, then there'll be a whole new competition. You go back to the start. If the bid is not overturned, then what has been awarded is just a one-time demonstration landing of humans and return them safely. And there are so many other landings that need to be competed. And we want a vigorous competition, but we've got to have the money in order to be able to do that. And we've suggested ways in this jobs bill that you can do that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your commitment to staying ahead of China. It is critical that we do that, and we need to treat them as the adversary that they are. So I appreciate that. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. And Mr. Administrator, we have many more landings to do, and if I have anything to say about it, we will have many more hearings with you as our guest. We have really appreciated your candor the wealth of your knowledge and experience, and we all look forward very much to working with you as our new NASA administrator. Congratulations,
This is the guy
and
that
thank you for your
only guy that
testimony
has a
today.
high-def camera.
With that, this hearing is hereby adjourned.
All right. What do you think? What do you think? I like where we're going so far. He basically said, they're like, hey, how can you keep this stuff going? He's like, you want more money? You want to keep this stuff going, you got to give me more money. It's pretty straightforward stuff, guys. And they're like, huh. Is that all we have to do? Yeah. Yeah. You could do it through the jobs bill if you want. So now it's a race against China? Yeah. They're in a blackout period, Buck. You're right. They can't talk. You can't talk about the lander. But what he did say is that, look, if you drop the protest, we can get more money. If you drop the protest, this is only for the demonstration mission. I can get you guys more money. And we saw that. He's right. He's 100% right. And I can cite a specific source on this one. If you look under NASA's Next Step 2 program, there's a broad agency announcement under the Next Step 2 program for the follow-on moon missions. NASA made an amendment to the broad agency announcement for Next Step 2 the other day. They did it like, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks ago or something. That broad agency announcement should have the funding for multiple landing systems. Should. Well, it not should have the funding. That's not really the right way to say it. It leaves NASA agency announcements open for multiple things. That's very consistent with what Bill just said. Bill just said, look, if you don't protest this, I will get you, like, I will find a way to softball you guys some contracts, but you gotta play ball with me. Really racing, though, we went to the moon in the 60s. Yeah, but we rescinded that capability, Gorn. So, yes. Can we send someone to the moon right now? Nope. Last for a Taradra troll. Oh, boy. You know I love that. I don't see your last anywhere. Or Taradras. He's playing SnowRunner and said Chevys are better. You know why Chevys never break down, Grab? Because the Fords are the ones that do all the work. That's why they break. Because they're the ones actually doing things. Just thought I'd let you know. Speaking of that, we have the electric F-150 reveal at 9:30 tonight. I don't see any Chevys broken down. You know why? Because people don't buy them because they're crap. Oh, God. Oh, jeez. Oh, God, it must suck to suck. Hey, Sephorian, what's up? Oh, God. Oh, man. Always buy Toyota? Yeah. Have a bill. Thank you, Thomas. That is well on its way of going up there. Bill did get pretty psyched about it, and I did like what he said. He did say that he, you know, to the people that ask about representation and stuff, he said, look, the best way to get people inspired about space is to launch stuff and land it on the moon. Good. Good. That's what I wanted to hear. My 40-year-old Chevy diesel truck begs to differ. How many miles are on it? Fistus. Year is irrelevant. Mileage is what it's about. $350,000. Great. You have the one Chevy that can do that. Good job. It's a diesel. Dude, those old diesels. Except for Cummins. Everyone benefits from having role models on the moon. Agreed? Is it worth sanding the rust of the under chassis of a 10-year-old vehicle and then coat it? Yeah. Will the uncrewed landing land next to the crewed landing site? Theoretically, could the uncrewed landing robotically deploy something that can record and stream the crewed landing from a distance? Yes. The base contract for HLS GravShark has one unmanned landing and one manned landing. They could be in the same spot. In fact, I would probably put them in the same spot to be sure. And it calls also for one reusable spacecraft. One of them will be reused. One of the landers could be reused. Calls for 2, reuse 1. Cough, crude, cough. Yeah, demo, no. I'm not trying to make a point by saying manned or saying crude. Don't think anything of it. No, I'm not saying it with willful intent. It's just nomenclature, old nomenclature. Relax. What's that, Grab? Stream that on NASA's Twitch channel. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, the moderate. Dude, they're I don't know if they're on board with that. Dude. Alright. I'm gonna go get more coffee. I had my lunch. I'm just gonna... We'll start into space news that way. I got something you guys might appreciate. We watched it. We saw it a little bit at the beginning, but we'll check it again. I'll be back in a moment, and then we'll start over here. you want more Lalahay? I got other stuff. You have a better one? Why the torture? But it's good song. All right, this is what you get.
All rise for hard bath. Never fear. Boris is here. Ready, let's go. Slice, squats and chicken-breaky. Cold compot with чебуреки. Always moving in the
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has
I
landed.
wish I had that.
windows down. Hot полнение, some class. Drive around and pop hard bath. My mama says it's just a phase when I feel my gaze with mayonnaise. But no, play this music from your car, inviting friends from near and far. Here everybody knows, Scots and toss break your bones. Do you? So listen. Raving comics, pumping stars, cutting bushes, hills and ground. I need no better way to get the western spice away. Big and fearless like a bear. Tracksuit with the stripes I wear. From Krakow to Kamchatka, and the patrons see the vodka.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Hi. Was that cheeky breaky enough for you? Do we want to, I mean, I have another one. Call an ambulance, please.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Where does it
Hold on.
hurt?
Where does it hurt?
My stomach ちゃんと痛いけど痛い
Discovery, go and throttle up.
救急車を呼んでもらったからといって安心はできません。しっかりと自分の状態を相手に伝えましょう。
I have a bad case of diarrhea.
私はひどい下痢です。
I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.
of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have
Song
a bad
slaps,
case
man.
of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.
Song slaps, bro. Nah, what?
肩に手を乗せ I have クロスして A bad case お腹をさすって of diarrhea ジェスチャーゲームの要領です。感情を込めてやってみましょう。
I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case
Song
of
slaps,
diarrhea.
man.
I have a bad case of diarrhea.
Never.
I have a bad case of diarrhea.
You would never be able to report this video to have a bad case of diarrhea. Never! Okay. Hey, Snake, what's going on? Here, chat. Here. I got something for you. Isn't this nice? Isn't this nice? Look. You need to see this. It's a 2-minute watch. No, Forge, I do not. You need to see this. It's a 39-second watch. It's a nice, pretty sky there. Uh-oh. Is that from the plane? Yeah. So this was a shot from the top of the crew access tower. Oh, that's pretty good. How warm do you think it is right here? I think everything is just fine. Right here, everything is just fine. It's not very warm, and it's really warm right around now. Yeah, now it's really warm. Yeah, you'd feel the heat. You would feel the heat from these, from here. Easily. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Chimp. Sorry. Hands up. This one. Yeah, you would feel it. You'd feel it. You ever see like a show or a firework go off or something? And, like you feel the heat from that firework? Oh yeah, you'd be feeling it right now. You would be very feeling, you would be really feeling. Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Theoretically, would someone survive if they stood up on that roof? Yeah. They'd be burned a little bit. It would, yeah, you'd be burned. Yeah, the heat would burn you pretty badly. I mean, I wouldn't stand here. No way. That's way too close. Yeah, and if you weren't burned, you'd be deaf. Like permanent hearing damage. Vibrations? Meh. Yeah. You wouldn't get much vibrations here. They'd be dampened out by the structure that's connected to the ground. Yeah, this would hurt. You'd be fine right up until around here. This is where this would get very bad. I mean, this should tell you the volume of air. Look, it blew the camera off the mount. And it doesn't even look like it's that bad. I don't know what the decibels would be. I don't have a number. There's the slide wires. But this picture is pretty awesome, though. Yeah, yeah, you'd be feeling it. That's for sure. So that was from the Sibers Geo5 launch yesterday from ULA. They do have a highlight video here if you want to check that out. Here you go. Well, not if, we're checking it out. Semper Vigilantis. Bass drop.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator. Clear to proceed. Launch director.
Launch vehicle is ready to launch.
Mission director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC. Verified T0 is set for 1737 Zulu.
Verified.
Rock, report range status.
Range green.
Status check. Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Sibers.
Five, 4, 3.
Guys, it's the camera. Guys, it's the camera angle. Yeah.
Atlas 5 rocket with the 5th space-based infrared system satellite for the United States Space Force.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
And we have good indication of separation of both SRBs.
Hey,
Good
sat the
indication
port
of
footage.
separation of the Sibers Geo5 spacecraft.
Cool. They did the camera angle thing again. Oh, this camera is money. This one right here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. All right. I'm having a crisis right now. Okay. Right. Yeah, the one up there. Yeah. Oh man. And then epic pad shots. Epic. Epic pad shot. Okay, do we have epic pad shot? Loud, by the way? Good. Headphone users. This is coming from Jeff Saber. Am I evil for putting my cameras through that? Only a little bit. Oh. That was awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna link up the rest of that video because I don't know if Jeff Sieber too well, to be honest with you. So make sure you go over and check his video out, the rest of that video on YouTube. You want to see the rest of that stuff. I'll link it up in chat. So that was the Sibers Geo5 launch. Totally 100% successful. And a lot of people were asking yesterday. The Centaur stage did deorbit, and it landed in the Indian Ocean somewhere. Near, kind of more towards Australia, but it did, yeah, they did deorbit it. They disposed of it, which is pretty neat. Yeah, that was a great mission. It's always a pleasure to see Atlas V go. I mean, personally, I'm more a fan of Delta, but always a pleasure with Atlas V. Thunder in a candlestick. Yep. Debris. What did you get, Snake? Let me see.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Oh, nice picture, dude. Snackless, 27 months, got your shot. More Atlas 511, please. 511? Alright. What other pictures did you take, Snake? That's a good picture, man. That's a really good picture. Wow, dude. I like this picture a lot. It's following rule of thirds pretty dang well. ULA's propellant. Well, the solid rocket boosters that are on the sides are hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene. I think it's HTPB, which is similar to the shuttle SRB. And then the Atlas V core stage is using kerosene and liquid oxygen, so RP1. And then the Centaur uses hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Yeah, I like this picture a lot, dude. Kind of want this like on my wall. It's nice, man. That's a really good picture. Awesome. Volkswagen. Ammonium perchlorate. Go force. Pretty sure. I'm not. Those GEMs could be using something different but I'm pretty sure it's HTPB. Here, we can go look. Those are GEM 60s. GEM stands for graphite epoxies. Oh no, those are 63s, not 60s. Let's take a look. Yep, okay, the graphite epoxy motor is a series of solid rocket motors fueled by hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene. Built in the 1980s and 1990s. GEM is currently produced by Yep. Cool. This one had AJ60s on it. Yeah, okay. So if that was an AJ60A, that's an Aerojet Rocketdyne SRB, which is this. What are they using? AJ60s are using HTPB as well, and with a graphite epoxy casing. Okay. And an engine throat and nozzle that are made of carbon phenolic composite. Yeah, okay. So the nozzle is a heat shield. The nozzle is the nozzle on the SRB is ablative to control temperature. There it is. Is that toxic when burned? Yes. Yes, very. It won't kill you, but it's not good for you. US Launch Report has some pretty epic telescope shots in their YouTube video. Yep. When next hop? I don't know. That's a good thing to note, Signer, that most things except hydrogen, it depends on the efficiency. It depends on how efficiently it burns. Hydrogen burns real good. Liquid, like kerosene blows up real good, but that's because you don't burn all the hydrocarbon. How loud was the shuttle? Yes. Yeah, Ozzy. Yeah. Yeah, Tori Bruno has more to elaborate on this if you want. Tori Bruno gets asked a question. Is it safe to eat a chunk of SRB fuel and does it taste good? No, it doesn't taste good. Or no, it's not safe to eat. Yes, it does taste good. Okay. Calorie count. More than even a double Royale cheeseburger with... Wow, look at the big brain on Tori. Man. What does a Centaur stage look like? What ain't no upper stage I ever heard of? They burn hydrogen with what? Did you see the Raptor pictures on SN15? Yeah, I saw them. Alright, another thing. What's this? Oh my, from ULA launch. Query on the wind limits for Atlas V. We do not publicly discuss our wind constraints related to launch. It is considered proprietary information. New space. Sigh. Oh, don't link me that, Lunprod. What would you like to know? In prepping for launch coverage yesterday with gusty winds in my neck of the woods in the AM, was just curious about Atlas V wind limits, as it had been a while since I'd asked. Was surprised to learn that it's now considered proprietary. More complicated than proprietary, it's different for every configuration, and is affected by how fast the bird will clear the pad and then in direction of the wind. For yesterday, the basic constraint was about 33 knots, with a bit less opposite the launch mast and crew access arm. What a legend. What a legend. Nice. Well, there you go. Next ULA launch will be STP-3 on June 23rd. Cool, cool. One tends to release data that one is proud of. Man. Tori Bruno is my hero. That guy's cool. That guy's really cool. Yeah. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. Yeah. Stash Bruno looks the best. That is my favorite Bruno. What is this, Forge? SpaceX HLS contract gets protection in revised Senate bill. Interesting. Yeah. That seems to echo what Bill was saying during that House Appropriations Committee. I agree, Dish. Oh, there was one more thing here. Somebody caught the most amazing... Somebody made the most amazing reaction GIF of all time. It's, around here somewhere. I'm looking around. Somebody took the GIF from the ULA promo video of Tori Bruno looking around with the cowboy hard hat. I gotta find it. It's in here somewhere. Double Royale. Royale with cheese. It's a double quarter pounder with cheese. This is a Pulp Fiction reference. I saw the Centaur 3 video, Dish. That's what I'm talking about. It's from that thing. I gotta find it here real quick. Trying to find it. It's somewhere in here. Did you find it, Thomas? Your Google Foo is better than me. Yep. Rafael De Palma has. Yep. That's that. Yep. That's the best. Yep. Yep, this is good. We watched a video on Space News, I think it was 2 Space News ago. Yep. Yep. This looks good. Yeah, we watched it, man. Talking about the mass fractions of Centaur. What's up, Kem? Kem, do you approve of this? There's cool, and then there's Tori Bruno cool, and no, you will not be as cool as Tori Bruno. That's just not... Yep, you wish you were that cool. I mean, I do. Deserves a spot on the mission control monitor. Dude, it so does. It so does. We gotta figure out a place to put it. How about they did helicopter? Here. I need to get that. Thomas, can you give me a URL for that, for the isolated GIF? But my Rafflecopter goes the what's happening section at Twitter. In second thought, let's not go to the what's happening section. 'Tis a silly place. I mean, I go there if I want to lose brain cells. Or you can come here.
I have クロスして a bad case お腹をさすって of diarrhea ジェスチャーゲームの要領です。感情を込めてやってみましょう。 I have a bad case of diarrhea.
All right. I wish there's a plugin, Gorn, that you can get somewhere. There's also this picture. Just Yep. Yeah. Tori Bruno gets it. He gets it. Yeah, he understands. Yeah, he's cool. We like him. He also worked on the X33. That's a lot of people don't know that. So the SSDO that I'm trying to make in KSP right now, the X33, yeah. That guy worked on it. He's an X33 engineer. Just on a side note. You should name one Bruno. Yeah. Have you seen this? The guy who talked about Yenisei might be telling the truth. Yeah, I did. Yeah, exactly. Anatoly Zak posted the same thing, dude. Yeah, look at that. Russian engineers formulated a baseline architecture of the super heavy rocket relying entirely on methane fuel. So, You guys gonna get back into the heavy lift game or the super heavy lift game? Can you do that, please? Can you do that more? Please do that. Do more of that. Yes. Yes. Please do more. Yenisei is back on the table. Not only is Yenisei supposedly, keep in mind, this is grain of salt, but first it was posted by a guy that said he worked at Roscosmos, and then it was posted by Anatoly Zak. Anatoly Zak runs Russian Spaceweb, and Russian Spaceweb to Roscosmos is what NASA spaceflight is to NASA. Like, anything... Anatoly is the OG Russian space program news outlet. You want to know anything about what's going on, go to Russian Spaceweb. Seriously. He posted a picture of it now, too. So, this rocket is... I mean, it's an 8.4 meter core. So, look. Check it out. That rocket right there has an 8.4 meter Methalox core. So now we're talking an SLS-sized rocket that's using a propellant similar to Starship. And then those boosters on the side, all those boosters on the side are, for the most part, Atlas V cores. They're not exactly an Atlas V core, but each one of them has an RD-180 in it. Yeah. Yeah. 6 liquid fuel boosters on the sides with RD-180s. RD-182. What's the difference, Thomas? Is there a difference? Oh, wait. Does Russia just not like SRBs? They don't use them. They don't like them for moving people. Looks expendable to me. Lame. RD-182 is the methane version? Oh, yeah, that's right. It is all methane. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. The number in the fuel. You're a number in fuel. No, you're right. Do you want this? I do want that. Thank you. Let me go in here. Yeah, my mistake. You're right. I mean, they're basically RD-180, so that should give you the idea. That Atlas rocket that we just saw launch, same thing, only methane. So you're gonna... How are you gonna run an oxygen-rich stage combustion with methane? So, wow. Yeah, that's gonna have a lot of thrust. Yeah, it's gonna have a lot of thrust. Yeah, a lot of thrust. Anyway, let's go over here and we can just take this and replace that with that. Yeah, there we go. Yep. This is a thing now. Can you see my last please? Which one? The one about you and like the 5 other people saying that I was wrong about something? Yeah, no, I got that. No, yeah. The engineer that worked at Roscosmos says he works on Amur. The Amur project, which is pretty cool. I mean, yeah, oxygen-rich stage combustion with methane is... That's going to get you some pretty high TWR there. Mercedes is playing 5D chess with Red Bull. See last, please. I don't want to, Angry Pixel. Want to, but Father, I don't want any of that. Not that one, the one before. No, I got you, man. I got you. All right, Pixel, what's up? What fuel does the Soyuz side boosters use? Soyuz uses all RP1 and kerosene. It's all rocket propellant 1. Or whatever. I forget what the Russians call it. You could just say RP1. It's kerosene. Why do people do that stupid C last thing? Yeah, it's because I can't keep up, Farnight. I can't keep up, dude. I can't. 。 What is this, Forge? All right, hold on.
James, Leon Tactics.
Yes, sir.
There is a plan called to stop.
Yeah, it's heavily reliant on Verstappen falling off the curve, though.
I'm not sure because he'll have a dilemma between managing or pushing to build a gap. I do believe this race is very similar to Budapest right now.
Look at that then, Hamilton 1.4 seconds quicker than Verstappen on the previous lap. Max is going to have to re-engage.
Huh, interesting. I can't listen to that for too long. Long story short, Mercedes' strategy is what wins them races. It's not just about having a fast car, right? Yeah. On the Atlas V, are those solid rocket boosters offset? Yep. Atlas V, guys, so this is why. I always try to speak to this every time that an Atlas V flies. It is a very, 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 very cool rocket. Why? Because it's a Lego kit. Yep. Oh, I would also like to add that there's 3 different types of fairings. All this is doing is showing different SRB configurations. So Atlas can fly with 2 types of fairings, 400 and 500 series, right? This is a 4-meter fairing, that's a 5-meter fairing. So it's important to note that the 5-meter fairing has the Centaur inside of the bottom half of the fairing, which is pretty cool. That's pretty neat. Now, the SRBs are offset, T-Man. Absolutely. They are offset. The reason why they're offset is because of the liquid oxygen downcomer and the racetrack. The electronics going down the side. The reason why they do that is, well, I mean, that's basically a byproduct of older Atlas designs, having an external LOX downcomer with RP1. So they ended up having to run with a offset SRB configuration. Atlas V can launch like that, it can launch like that. And now I know what you're saying. Well, how the heck do you deal with the offset thrust? Well, the long story short is that the RD-180 can do it. Each individual nozzle on the RD-180 can gimbal 8 degrees. Each nozzle. So it can do this, it can do that, it can do that, it can do that, or it can do this. Yeah, there 8 degrees on the RD-180. That's kind of how it can compensate. The other thing is that the SRB nozzles, if you notice, the nozzles, now this is something that you can't do in KSP. Those SRB nozzles are pointed out because they point through the center of mass. So because this nozzle is canted outward like this, the RD-180 doesn't have to compensate very much to get the thing to fly straight. Now, on top of all these configurations that you see here, there is, I mean, Atlas has, I don't know what the maximum amount of configurations there are, because on top of having a 4 and 500 series fairing, right, on top of that, there's 3 different types of the 400 series fairing and 3 different types of the 500 series fairing. There's 3 different lengths here and 3 different lengths here. Atlas V on top of that can carry 2 different types of upper stages. It can carry a single engine Centaur or a dual engine Centaur. What's the difference? One has 2 engines and the other one has 1. Atlas has a near infinite configuration here, and this is basically to provide mission assurance to be able to launch in any configuration. The rocket is quite literally a Lego kit.
Na, 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 na. Hey! Na, 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 na. Hey! Hey!
Hi?
You got it stuck in my hand, so I was punishing you.
Good.
I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.
All right. Atlas V has a bunch of configurations that are, dude, Atlas V has so many configurations that some of them have never been flown. This one on the right, Atlas V Heavy. That's configurable, and they can do that. The pad is configured for this. It can do it. The mobile launcher, everything. You could fly this configuration, which is nuts to me. That's absolutely insane. Another configuration that was just recently added is the Atlas V Not 22 configuration, or N22 configuration, which also is capable, that's the Lego, which also is capable of launching people into space. Atlas V is a very, very, very good lifter, and I'm almost sad to see it go. I actually kind of am sad. It's a really, really, really good launch vehicle. My only beef with it is that it's expendable. That's the only one. Other than that, the thing is great. It is about as good as you can make an expendable launch. This summer, you're going to see this configuration again, and then if everything goes right with that OFT2 mission, you're going to see people launch from Atlas by the end of the year. By the end of the year. Ruka, I don't see your last question. Atlas is a great launch vehicle, guys. It is very, very good. Ruka, hold on. Give me 1 second. When is Atlas V done and what's replacing it? Vulcan. Vulcan will replace it, dude. I call Vulcan Atlas 6. Everybody else calls it Vulcan. Atlas 6 isn't going to bring you anything. The Vulcan rocket is what's replacing it. Now, I'll be real with you. Vulcan is good. It's a good launch vehicle. It takes all the best things about Delta 4 and all the best things about Atlas and combines them into one vehicle. I call it Delta 5. I call SLS Delta 5, but that's just me. So here it is. That's Vulcan. Now, Vulcan is using, in the first stage, instead of the RD-180, it's using BE-4s, okay? BE-4s are Blue Origin's motors. They're an oxygen-rich stage combustion cycle engine. They're very powerful. Very powerful. Basically, what happens if you took an RD-191 and a shuttle engine and you kind of amalgamated them into one thing. They're very powerful first stage engines. Blue Origin will also be using those for New Glenn. So that means that Vulcan is going to have a methalox core. It's going to be using methane. ULA specifically says liquid natural gas, but that could mean methane. Methane is an LNG. So is propane, I'll tell you what. Now, The core on this, the core on Atlas is about 3.7 meters. That's a 5-meter core. So that's the part that you're taking from Delta that's good. 5-meter core right here, okay? So strapped to that, to the sides of that core, is up to 6 GEM63XL solid rocket motors. Now these things, holy balls. These things are about as powerful as you can get for a side booster. Look at this. 2,000 kilonewtons of thrust per booster. That's 450,000 pounds at 280 second specific impulse, which is absurd. That's really good for a solid rocket booster. With an 84-second burn time, it can have 6 of those. 6 of those. It can multiply its liftoff thrust by like 3 with having those in a heavier configuration. It's a monster. It's a monster. The GM63XL is insane. 22 meters, 1.6 meter diameter. Beast mode. It really is. It can have up to 6 of those. Okay? Is it possible for another company to buy the rights to Atlas and continue launching it? I don't know, Builder. Maybe. Oh, it's important to note that, okay, so like in terms of when Atlas goes out the window, here's the thing. So Vulcan is replacing Atlas, but it's only replacing Atlas. Listen to this. This is important. It is only replacing Atlas for national security missions. Some Rule 8 stuff went down in 2014 with the Russians. You can go look this up if you want. And Congress after that said basically don't use Russian motors to launch Department of Defense payloads into space. That's why Vulcan exists. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that ULA cannot buy engines from the Russians and use them for whatever they want. As long as it's not national security missions, they can use it for whatever. So, when is Atlas going out? I have no idea. I don't know the answer to that question. The reason is because ULA could theoretically keep using it as long as they want. As long as it's not launching a national security mission, they could keep using it for a while. So, NASA can use an Atlas V mission, and NASA can use Atlas V for missions, and ULA can use it for any commercial missions. ULA just signed a nut-so-big contract with Amazon to launch Project Kuiper, which is Amazon's internet satellite constellation project. 9 Atlas V launches. 9 Atlas V. So, the important thing is that Atlas V is kind of on its way out, but it also is not going anywhere for a long time. And that's what makes Slick 41 even cooler. All right? The pads that these rockets launch from. Atlas and Vulcan will share the same pad. One pad launching 2 completely different types of rockets, which is really freaking cool. Because Slick 41 is using a clean pad configuration, all they got to do is just make a different mobile launcher. If you look, this is a very old picture of 41 right here, but if you look, all you got to do is see those little white doors right there? Those white doors are where you hook the mobile launcher into the pad, and the mobile launcher is over here. The mobile launcher for Atlas is right there. Actually, you got a really good view of it. It's right there. But just slightly down the road, and I say slightly down the road, it's a long way. Slightly down the road here in the former ITL solid rocket motor assembly facility, ULA renamed this to the Space Operations Center. It's called SPOC for short. SPOC is where they're going to hold Vulcan's mobile launcher. SPOC, Vulcan. Yeah, that's not an accident. And Vulcan's mobile launcher will be able to go down here, get on the ITL causeway, the former ITL causeway right here, and they'll be able to tow it all the way down here to the pad to launch. So Slick 41 will not only be able to launch people from it, but it'll be able to launch 2 different types of rockets from a single pad, which is damn freaking impressive if you ask me. That's an impressive piece of engineering. Now, on top of all that, if we want to dogpile it, what was the last thing I was going to say? Wouldn't Amazon or Bezos more specifically request they use Vulcan for these missions? I don't think Jeff gives a crap as long as he can get the best price for it, King. Rich people don't stay rich by spending money, right? Regardless of what you think about that, right? You don't get... You don't stay rich by spending a lot of money, right? Now, on top of that, that's where I was going with this. On top of that, Slick 41 ULA used a lot of upgrades to upgrade this pad. This thing can support kerosene rockets, it can support hydrogen rockets, and it can support liquid methane rockets. It is a phenomenal piece of engineering. I've actually met the guy that's overseeing the project of retooling the pad. It's pretty damn cool, man. It's a pretty cool piece of kit. I'm really happy with this. I'm really happy that I got to go in here and check it out. If Blue Origin is selling the engines for the missions, wouldn't Amazon prefer to use these rockets? Yeah, no doubt, King. Sorry, you threw me a curveball. I kind of was on a roll there. Let me finish telling people about Vulcan, and then I'll answer that question, because yeah, it is a little bit weird, but I'll tell you why in a second. Actually, 2 crew vehicles. Well, Crew Dream Chaser isn't on the books, T-Man, technically, but yeah, if you want to be like that, sure, yeah, absolutely. It could launch Dream Chaser as well. Now, Vulcan, on top of that, here's my favorite part. Centaur 5. That thing. See that thing right there? It might not look like much. That will be the most capable upper stage, conventional upper stage. Starship is kind of an exception to that, because I think, in my mind, Starship is a reusable upper stage, but that's another story. That is the single most powerful conventional upper stage we've ever built. Now, a couple of caveats to that. There are stages that we've made that have higher thrust. Nothing will be able to put payloads where that thing can put them because it's a Centaur design. What does that mean? What do I mean by that? That's a 5-meter stainless steel Centaur upper stage using balloon tanks, and it's got 2 RL-10 engines in it. Now, RL-10 engines themselves, here, I'll just give you a quick overview of these things. RL-10 engines, I call these basically cheating, okay? Because if you don't know about them, they use what's called an expander cycle. So long story short, they have pre-valves that go into these cooling ducts here on the RL-10. What happens there is the cold propellants, because it's using hydrogen and oxygen, the cold propellants heat, they cool down the rocket engine and they exchange the heat. They basically absorb all the heat from the rocket engine, right? And then they go up and they spin the turbines. And from there, the turbines pump more fuel in. It's called an expander cycle. It basically uses the heat of the rocket motor to actuate the turbines. The RL-10 also has a gearbox in it because you have to deliver twice as much liquid hydrogen as you do liquid oxygen to get that to burn stoichiometric. So there's a transmission in here. There's a transmission attached to the side of this motor, which is really cool. So you turn one turbine, and then a gearbox turns the liquid oxygen turbo pump. Liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen turbo pumps are right next to each other. Now, because it's so efficient using liquid hydrogen with that expander cycle, right? Look at some of these specs on some of these engines. Particularly the RL-10B2. Look at that specific impulse, 465 at 100 kilonewtons of thrust. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. 100 kilonewtons of thrust is not that. That's not that good. It's not the best. For instance, like a Merlin 1D vacuum makes 900 kilonewtons of thrust, arguably way more. Here's the thing: 465 second specific impulse is nothing to scoff at. An RL-10B2 would be like having a car that makes like 300 horsepower, somewhere in there, maybe like 200 horsepower, right? But it gets quite literally like 200 miles to the gallon. So you're not the fastest around. It doesn't have the highest TWR, but where you lack in TWR, you make up for inefficiency. That'll enable that Centaur 5 to be able to put payloads we've never been able to get to, ever, because it's 5 meters. That is an amazing upper stage. It is ridiculous. The performance numbers are insane. The performance numbers are absolutely ridiculous. They're off the charts. Love the hair? Thanks, man. I appreciate it. How does Centaur compare to Nerva? Nerva would probably be about twice as efficient in terms of specific impulse, but then again, that really depends on the Nerva's design. But saying that you're half as efficient as a nuclear engine is still pretty damn freaking good. It's about as good as we can get. And that's my favorite part. ULA has worked on prototypes for reusing Vulcan's second stage. Hi, Brimo.
I just need you to cry with me.
Yep, okay. Housing prices are expensive. Thank you.
Not just expensive. Median was $529. Median.
Want to move to Florida?
No.
$529,000. Could buy a mansion.
Tempting.
20-car garage.
Tempting.
Nice weather all the time. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. Because of COVID, guys, and I don't want to start this, but because of COVID, housing prices have quite literally gone through the roof in Massachusetts. Ha ha ha, housing puns. 1,000 square foot house inside of Boston's inner beltway, 600,000-700,000. Yeah, all day. Up to $1 million if it's in the right spot. Yeah, it ballooned the housing prices already, like to the point where we basically can't buy a house here. Why are houses so cheap in Florida? There's a lot of space. Cost of living is really low. Yeah, Geeson. I mean, the building supply shortage is not helping. That's for sure. Yeah, it's all over the place, guys. So yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is. I'm not gonna whine about it. I'll just find another solution, like moving to Florida. I mean, we could buy. I mean, houses in Florida ain't that expensive. Because no one wants to live in Florida. Brimo, look at this strapping young lad right here. You see Bill? Bill's from Florida. Bill wants to live in Florida. See Bill? Bill has also flown on the space shuttle. You should be like Bill. Be like Bill. We'll take Jim. Jim's from Oklahoma. He's from Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a great state. A great state. Jim's never flown into space, but Jim flies fighter planes. You know, cost of living there is really low. I don't want to live in Oklahoma for what it's worth. No offense, Jim. I love you. You're the man. I need to go where the rockets are, man. I hope you understand that. Be like Jim. You should be like Jim. And you should be like Bill. Bill is cool. Brimo wants to stay around family. But Brimo, rockets are our family. When's Bill going in mission control? Hey, guys, it took me a while to put Jim up there, okay? It took me a while to put Jim up there. I really liked what Bill said today. He basically told them what they needed to do to get them more funding. Yeah, you got to earn it, exactly. What about Louisiana? Who dat? Cajun, who dat? If he block buys SLS, Phil, he will get a permanent position in here. But anyway, and then on top of all this with Vulcan, you have a 5-meter payload fairing, and you have a 5-meter payload fairing that's frigging gigantic. So, for instance, you could put all kinds of, you could put space station modules in here, you could put whatever. We got Mardi Gras. Who dat? Who is Louisiana? Who dat? I don't know who that is. Last. Anyway. You have to queue this up. What is this and where did it come from? Phil, what is this? Delta 5? Why is dark mode inverting the colors here? Oh god, infrared. You got it from an NSF tweet. All right. A recent NSF tweet. Okay, Boeing notes SLS's go for 2033 Mars flyby mission, the first human encounter with Mars. The super heavy lift SLS makes it possible to launch astronauts for the first human encounter with Mars. I'm sorry, what? Why is the orange still orange? I don't know, man. I don't know. Can I turn the dark reader off, please? For a second? Thank you. All right. Well, let's take a dive here. Oh, please. Please, I want that. The most capable national asset. National asset, meaning NASA. For NASA exploration missions. I actually agree with that. That's not loaded in favor of SLS. SLS is an expendable launch vehicle, so it'll always be better for exploration than Starship. Yes, you heard that right. Not on cost, but on Delta V, if you compare apples to apples, because Starship is refuelable, SLS will always be able to get more done in one launch than Starship. That is not a knock on Starship. Starship has other ways to do that. But that's not a loaded statement, right? Excuse me, one Jupiter. All right, let's see what we got here. It was an unloaded statement. Put the gun down. SLS, the most capable national asset for NASA exploration missions, with the needed performance to establish a robust marketplace in deep space. I agree with this. I agree with this part. I'm not so sure about that second part, though, but whatever. Performance to TLI. Yeah. 45 tons, 45 MT TLI, right around here is exactly where you want to be. Now, why is that? What does that mean? What does that mean, 45 ton TLI? What are you talking about? Are you speaking Japanese? I mean, I've been learning it over there, but anyway, no, I'm not going to play it. 45 ton TLI is generally what you want for being able to get people down to the surface of the moon. If you make a big rocket, 45 metric tons, because of physics and Delta V requirements, is kind of the magic number that you would need for a flag and a footprint on the surface, okay? If your rocket can move 45 metric tons, to translunar injection, meaning that the rocket can push 45 tons on a trajectory that crosses the moon's path. That's what that means. You generally will have enough stuff to get down to the surface of the moon. I'll give you 3 guesses how much the Saturn V could move to TLI. Yeah, you guessed. It's 45 tons. Yep. It's the same picture. That's kind of the magic number that you need. SLS is the only game in town. Get used to it. .com Bill is definitely... From what I heard about Bill today, Bill's definitely cut from a different cloth. He's he's old school. Real old school. Even more old school than Tory Bruno. No, I'm not calling him old. I'm saying he's old school. He's got a certain type of southern candidness to him that I actually really appreciate, to be honest with you. How many metric tons is Starship? Well, Cajun, that really depends on how many times Starship can be refueled. Well, not can be. It depends on how many times you want to refuel it. That's the right way to say that. It's how many times you want to refuel Starship. You want to refuel Starship once? 5 tons TLI. Twice, 10 tons. 3 times, 15. 10 times will get Starship all the way to the surface and back. So, that's where Starship really... I disagree about the robust marketplace. Starship is really tailored to be able to move whatever the frick you want out to the moon. SLS is good for putting people down on the surface. Despite the fact that he's obviously old. I mean, he's definitely old, Demo. But did you see how... Demo, everything that he said was calculated as frick. It might seem like he's speaking off the cuff, but there's no way. That guy understands his Rule 8 literacy is like... It's more than Jim's is. I'll be honest with you. He speaks Rule 8 better than Jim does, and that's a hard thing to say. Because
Discovery,
Jim was
go and
damn
drive
good
up.
at it. He's real good at it. I don't know how he got so fluent in it, because Jim had been in the House of Representatives for like less than a decade. Bill's been there for like 5. Can we get that Tory Bruno gif as a better Twitch TV gif? Maybe. Do you think the Moon Tesla will be a thing? Maybe. When you get to the Interstellar page, pause. Link to Bill's comments. Duke, it hasn't been summarized yet. Nobody summarized it. But there was a House Appropriations Committee meeting with Administrator Nelson, with Bill, and Bill basically testified to different representatives about how he'll go about spending the money. So, House of Representatives, as you know, if you don't, House of Representatives are the people that pull the purse strings. The executive branch says we're going to do this, and then the House of Representatives says, okay, you requested this much money to do this. I think that's the right amount, or I don't think that's the right amount. They basically they write up the laws and the funding appropriation for NASA, and then the Senate puts that into law, and then NASA has to do it per the law. So basically this meeting that we listened to at the beginning of the stream was, for the most part, a bunch of representatives from around the country asking Bill, like, look, hey, I have this NASA facility in my district. If we funded you for this, how will this benefit me? They're pretty good questions. And you know what I think was a bit refreshing? That for the most part, the politicians, the representatives from those districts really knew what the heck they were talking about. And keep in mind, guys, they ask questions to get this stuff on the record. All right? In a very similar way that if somebody asks me a question, I'll go on a long diatribe about the context of that question, just so people that are watching can understand the full scope of things. It's exactly what I just did in that exact analogy, right? So yeah, it's a good meeting. There's a lot of good questions asked. Bill seems very committed to 2024. He does consider China a threat, not a threat in space, but a rival. I'd say a rival or an adversary, a rival/adversary in space, and is using that to justify expanding NASA's presence in space, which means more Artemis stuff. Now, whether you agree with that or not, I don't know. That's up to you. I like more space things. As long as we're not shooting each other in space, I'm totally cool with that. There were a lot of good questions asked by a lot of smart representatives. I particularly like the representative from California that his last name's Garcia, I think. He's a naval aviator, and he was like, look, Skunk Works is in my district. What are you going to do for me? I'm like, one does not simply try to think you know more than Skunk Works, man. Okay? That's not how that works. Yeah, no, that's fine, Mason. That's the game. Look, I said it right when I first heard Bill would be nominated. Dude, NASA's administrator, and I said it when Jim was there, and I'll say it again. NASA's administrator needs to be able to speak Rule 8. He needs to have some political experience. To say that Bill does not have political experience would be very ignorant of the situation. That guy has been in the House and he's been in the Senate over the course of, 4 decades at this point, man. He knows what he's talking about. And he's represented the district with Kennedy Space Center in it. The guy is about as qualified as you could get for an administrator. Oh, yeah, Red 8, I hear you. He was very adamant. He's like, look, I got Skunk Works, I got Plant 42 in my district, and the aerospace sector. What are you going to do for us? It was pretty cool. He's a pretty cool dude. What's his first name, Red? I don't want to just keep calling him, Garcia, man. I think his name is Mike. Okay. Garcia is from Santa Clarita, California, educated at Saugus High School, attended United States Naval Academy in Georgetown. He served in the Navy from 1998 to 2012, participated in multiple combat missions during the Iraq War, and following his active duty in the Navy, he worked at Raytheon. Okay. He got nominated in 2020 in a special election held to fill the vacancy caused by Katie Hill's resignation in the general election. Yeah, no. Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, okay, let's keep going with SLS. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Red, I got you. Yeah, I understand the circumstances there. Yeah, that whole thing. That was that district, huh? Yeah, let's skip that one. That's not, yeah. Yeah, back to this. Yeah, that got inappropriate real quick. All right, seriously, don't, yeah, no, I'm not talking about that one anymore. That's your home. You don't have to be crazy to live here, but it sure helps, am I right? All right. FaZe, what's up? How possible would it be to make a large vehicle that stays in orbit, is refueled, and can transfer between planets, say like the Hermes from The Martian? FaZe, it's not... Dude, at this point, it's not... You know, like, here's the thing. People ask me, could we make another Saturn V? Could we make another space shuttle? Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. That whole, oh, we lost the plans to the Saturn V, that's nonsense. We can make another Saturn V. We could poop one out right now. The question is, do we have the willpower to do it? Does NASA see it, or does the U.S. government see it as a viable venture? And will, you know, like, why? What are you doing? It's a political will thing. It really is. We could poop out another Saturn V right now. I mean, it would take, believe it or not, if we wanted to just make a carbon blueprint of the Saturn V right now, it would probably take about the same amount of time as it took us during the Apollo program to remake it. Now, and that's what I mean. NASA hasn't lost any blueprints for the Saturn V. That's absurd. What NASA did lose is the technical expertise, because there were no CNC machines in the 60s. There were no CNC machines. It was an experienced tradesman machining parts with the precision of a CNC machine. We lost the trade skills. The guys that actually built it aren't around anymore. And if they're around, they've long since retired. They don't give a frick anymore. I mean, they probably still do. Once you have the space bug kind of in you, it never goes away. You're kind of boned. The supply chains aren't there. The equipment just isn't there. Saturn V would need, amongst other things, it would need an avionics upgrade unless we want to go back to making rope memory. I mean, the computer is a little outdated by modern standards. You could literally plug a smartphone in and it can control Saturn V all the way into space. It would need, all the GSE would need to be rebuilt. The high bays and the VAB would need to be rebuilt. The tooling, and now don't get me wrong, we could do all that. That part's not the problem. The problem is the guys that actually like made the engines. They don't make those guys are long gone. It's much better to use us, and I'm saying this, you know, because we're talking about SLS. It's much better to just design it from the ground up. And you use production supply lines, and this isn't just a bullcrap jobs thing, all right? Like everybody touts it to be. You use stuff that you know. And that's the example that I'm trying to get at, dude. You use what you know. This is why Congress said build a shuttle-derived launch vehicle. Even before SLS came around, the plan was still to build a shuttle-derived launch vehicle, because then you can use some of that knowledge from the shuttle program to kind of bridge that gap and make up for that huge technical expertise gap that you'd encounter if you just clean-sheeted a new launch vehicle, okay? And the shuttle, for all intents and purposes, is basically a heavy launch vehicle. The problem is that most of it is wings. Most of that heavy launch capability gets taken up in wings and payload bays and main engines flying all the way into space, right? That's the problem. So it pays to use that technical expertise. That's part of the reason why, you know, that's part of the reason why, like, I was going to say SLS didn't take very long, but that was the original plan, and then they just kept overfunding the program with no deadlines, and it created waste, but that's another story. Overfunding, guys, is just as bad as underfunding. You need to appropriately budget things, and that's what these House Appropriations Committees with Bill are about today, just to pivot the thing. Denny with the 38-month resub. So, FaZe, to answer the question, and once again, you need a run up because some of these questions are a little complicated. If we were going to build something on orbit that refueled things, right? It's really a matter of, do you think the technical possibility? Yeah, of course it's possible. Duh. Of course you can. Yeah. I don't think there's no significant challenge there that we don't need to invent fusion to create a propellant depot in space. No, we do not need to do that. We don't need to do that. It's just really a question of getting it on the books and then practicing it. There's no prior technical expertise, so the cost is going to be a little bit more than what you would probably anticipate. This is why we chose to make SLS in the first place, because SLS, even though it's a super heavy launch vehicle and it borrows from the shuttle, we know that building a super heavy launch vehicle like that is a good way to be able to access the moon in the interim time. You're just too good at Rule 8. Oh, I've been studying space policy for like 10 years, Hellfish. What do you want from me? Point is, guys, there's ways to make this work. There's ways to make it work. In Phase, we can make a propellant depot. You could have a dedicated propellant depot up there. There's been tons of studies into doing it. The question is, do we see it as viable and do we have the money? Now, I always thought, you know, there are some folks out in the spaceflight community that seem to think that it's one or the other. You know, build a smaller launch vehicle, right? And then have a propellant depot, right? And use the propellant depot in low Earth orbit to be able to go out to the moon by just tapping into the fuel reserves there, right? Not a bad way to do it. Why would we do that when we could just build a super heavy lift launch vehicle and make an even bigger propellant depot? Why would you limit yourself by building a heavy launch vehicle when you could build a super heavy launch vehicle to do that? I mean, before you call me crazy, there is a certain Italian American here that's trying to do exactly that, Phase. And before you say, well, oh, Elon's just trying to do it. He's just trying to do it. Like, that doesn't mean it's going to get done. There's a NASA program called Next Step 2, okay? The Next Step 2... The Next Step 2 program is, pretty cool. Next Space Technologies for Exploration Partnerships 2 program. I will remind people that Next Step 2 is where the block buy for HLS is supposed to be. That what Bill was referring to if you listened to that previously. Let's see. Let's go back a little bit. If we go in here and we go start peeping around to contract awardees for the Next Step program, let's see, where is it? Do or do not. There is no try. SRU, Human Landing Systems. That's bizarre. It's not in here. Maybe Next Step 3? Let's do that. I can't find the exact thing off the top of my head, but SpaceX has a contract under Next Step 2 for on-orbit refueling. Long story short, NASA has been basically setting up Starship and sizing up Starship over like the last 3 or 4 years. No joke. It wasn't a coincidence that they only chose SpaceX for HLS, and that's why Dynetics and the national team are kind of pissed off. But then again, before you say, oh, they're favoring SpaceX, they also gave the national team a lot of these Next Step contracts to develop certain types of technologies on orbit. The SpaceX Next Step Award Forge for on-orbit refueling, I can't find it. Then again, my Google Foo skills suck when I'm on stream. You guys do it way better than I do. Like, cause I'm like on the spot. I have to produce it on the spot. It's kind of tough, but. Tipping point solicitations. Yeah, they also talked about that in the House Appropriations Committee. Oh, yep, there you go. Cryogenic fluid management technology, SpaceX. Large-scale flight demonstration to transfer 10 metric tons of cryogenic propellant, specifically liquid oxygen, between tanks on a Starship vehicle. Look when this was awarded. They really dropped the ball on this by not renaming their company Iron Eagles. The first privately owned F-16 aggressor jet is taken to the skies. Oh, that's pretty neat. You know, that would be really nice to own one of those. I'd prefer an F-4 Phantom in mana if you really want my honest opinion, but I might be a little biased. I know you'd want a Kafir. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me, boy. You'd want that dang Kafir, don't you? Yeah, Hellfish, I'll get back to the PDF in a moment. But yeah, it's a tipping point tech. But anyway, let's get back here. So the Space Launch System currently supports 28,000 jobs and more than 11,000 suppliers in 45 states with $5.5 billion in SLS program economic impact. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's $5.5 billion of profit every year, because these NASA contracts can be enough to get these businesses afloat to fulfill the contracts and also do other things. It builds a sector that frankly didn't exist, just like the railroad, just like commercial aviation. It's a good idea. That's why they do this. NASA Space Launch System, built by American industry.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Celtic 7-month resub. Missions, okay. Israel sold them all a decade and a half ago, right around the time they retired all the A4s. They sold the Kafirs? Shame. A4s, I never liked A4s, I'll be honest with you. I really didn't. A1s are better, arguably. Simpler system, does pretty much the same thing. I know it's a little more complicated than that, I understand. Yeah, I get it. Not really a fan of A4s, to be honest with you. F-14 Tomcat, best fighter. I do like the F-14 if we're talking about Navy stuff. Yeah, nothing comes close. The Super Hornet is pretty damn good, though. I will say that. Wait, Dynetics makes fairings? Boring. Defense contractors have their fingers everywhere. Everywhere. They're all over the place, dude. In ways you can never even imagine, dude. They're everywhere. Let's see. NASA Space Launch ICPS is built by ULA, Lockheed Martin. Launch Escape System, Orion's Lockheed Martin. 8.4 meter cargo fairing by Dynetics. They're everywhere, dude. The defense industry is, I mean, for better or for worse, it's the backbone, dude. There's so much revenue there. And it's not just in making weapons either. Like, SpaceX got the money last week. SpaceX has been awarded a $50 million contract from NASA for an odd orbit. Yeah, that's, they started acting on the, they started acting on Next Step. Yep. Which is a good thing. That's a good sign. That's one big fairing. Yeah, Rocketology, I'm really after these two over here. This thing is okay, I guess. Good for a demonstration mission. But I want this one. I want this one now. This one right here, and this one. And then I want Orion's service module to be upgraded. I'll take the payload hit on lander mass. I want Orion to have an upgraded ESM that can circularize to LLO for better mission assurance, if you want my honest opinion. That's one of my big beefs with SLS in its current configuration. The capsule does not have the capsule in the service module doesn't have the capability to be able to get down to low lunar. I don't like that. I really don't like that. That's not a good idea. I don't think that's good mission architecture. That's my personal opinion. NASA disagrees with me. No, I don't know better than them. The reason is because you have Starship and you have these, you have this, if national team gets on the books, and, it looks like they probably will. The reason is because if you have a 3-stage lander system like that, you're awarded additional mission assurance being able to have the capsule get down to low lunar orbit, either by itself or towing an ascent module or something, because in case something goes wrong. In case something goes wrong, you do not have, you're basically looking at the same amount of risk assessment as the Apollo program, but still using Gateway, which can be more efficient. Think about it like this. the 3-stage lander gets down to low lunar orbit, and then they have a problem with the descent module, for instance, right? Or the ascent module gets back into lunar orbit, and then for whatever reason they can't get back to Gateway. Orion can go down there and get it. They can go down there and they can get it. I don't like so like with the lunar mission at any given point going down to the surface of the moon, right? You want to be able to have as many ways to get home as possible. Like Apollo 13 is a great example citing why this is a good idea. The astronauts had a problem with the CSM. They had to shut it down, so they used the lunar excursion module as a lifeboat, right? If we had one single lander and we were riding out to the moon in a single stage lander like Starship and you had a problem with the Eclipse, there's no lifeboat. You know what I mean? I don't like that. I don't like that way of doing things. I think that's a bad idea. This is why redundant dissimilar architecture at all phases of the mission is a real good idea. So you don't have so you're basically, in the event of an unknown or some really freak accident, which do happen in space flight, that happens, you have to take into account that there's something that you're not going to be able to anticipate happening. That always happens with space flight every time. Look at Rocket Lab. Do you think they accounted for their second stage engine not working correctly? No, but they accounted for it just in case with the safe shutdown of the upper stage. They took that into account clearly, but you never know what's going to happen exactly, right? So like Rocket, I think it would be better to have that capsule be able to insert into LLO if you absolutely needed to. It would make missions ridiculously more safe. And now I know what people would say. Well, what's the point of Gateway then? Well, if you're just moving the Orion capsule to Gateway, yeah, you do have an excess of fuel, but that excess of fuel could be used as redundancy. If the Orion needs to get away from Gateway, or it needs to go somewhere else, or it needs to come home, or it needs to tow an ascent module somewhere, you could use Orion as a tug to move things around. I think that's a great idea. If you need to relocate it to another docking port out at Gateway, NASA seems to have some kind of issue with docking ports on space stations, as I recall, i.e. not having enough room, right? That's kind of an unknown. I don't think anybody predicted that NASA would run out of space with docking ports on the International Space Station. But that quite literally is the reason why Starliner has not launched on its second orbital flight test. There is no room at the ISS. The driveway's full, man. Now, I talked about it the other day, Thor. I don't really want to talk about it. It brings out the crazies. There are known knowns and known unknowns and unknown unknowns. Gene Kranz talks about that in Failure is Not an Option. The philosophy backing Starship is the same philosophy behind modern airliners, right? Reliability and built-in redundancy. Correct. Predominant, i.e., fly it long enough to know that you get your safety through your reliability. But if you look, one needs to not look any further than the miracle on the Hudson, right, where Sully dropped that A320 into the Hudson River. Double engine failure can happen. No launch escape system, but, an airplane has altitude as its insurance in the case of a double failure scenario. What does a rocket have? I bought Failure is Not an Option on Audible. Mason, it'll blow your mind, dude. It'll give you insight into where Gene Kranz's mind is at that you would never know. Dude, that book helped me understand what it means to be a flight controller for NASA. And why you go about trying to cover all the bases before you even launch. That's really, really important. It's not just the mission operations. It's not just being able to do a ECOM tri-SCE to auxiliary. The whole reason why John Aaron on Apollo 12 was able to predict that failure mode is from crazy and robust training. You do the work down here. If you've seen First Man, they touch on Neil Armstrong in First Man touches on it with one line: fail down here so you don't fail up there. It's a really, really cool and interesting way of thinking. That's why I like it. Yeah, everyone here, if you're interested in space in any way, read Failure is Not an Option by Gene Kranz. It's really, really smart. Have you heard a petition to name the Lunar Gateway after Collins? Yes, Danny, and I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. Rockets like Starship has docking and transfer capabilities and safe trajectories for things like free return. The lifeboat is another Starship. Yeah, that's right, Predominant, in the case of Starship. But, so, like, okay, so the context of what I was saying previously is if you have Starship and another landing system. Starship has its own redundancy built in, but Orion, if you're presumably doing a more conventional Apollo-style mission, you're gonna want dissimilar. You're not gonna want dissimilar architecture, because then you could just say a Starship could go and rescue it. But I would push for as much redundancy and as much overlapping capability in that entire mission architecture, right? From beginning to end. Basically, I want Starship to be able to have its own separate capability all the way down to the lunar surface, and then I want SLS with the national team to also have that same exact capability all the way down to the lunar surface and back. Because you know what's better? You know what's better than having one way to get to the surface of the moon? Having two ways to get to the surface of the moon, obviously. No, I got you. Yeah, no, I could tell, Predominant. That's why I brought you up to speed. You know what's better than having two ways? 3. What's the name of that book again? Failure is Not an Option by Gene Kranz. It's this guy right here. Not the guy on the left, the guy on the right with the flat top haircut that looks like this. This is a Gene Kranz haircut, man. That's why I did it. Or it's just a crew cut. You could say that. I want Starship operational, and I want to ship the next 15 to 20 years in a Starship launch and flight montage. I'd watch that montage and then have airline-like reliable flights with Starship tomorrow. Yeah, I want to. Wait, you want to skip the next 15 to 20 years in Starship launch and flight montage? I'd watch that montage and then have airline-like reliable flights with Starship tomorrow. Gene Kranz is still around. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Good way to look at that. Anyway, let's keep going with this PDF here. 42 metric tons TLI. See what I mean? The 42 metric ton TLI is not, it's not enough to get totally down to the surface, but it's close. SLS with the exploration upper stage EUS launches 3 times more mass to orbit than any other rocket. Right now, yep. Oh. Oh, yeah. I like this one. Can we have... All right. I don't need this one. I want this one. Nice job, T-Man. Phase Master. Failure is Not an Option by Gene Kranz. That's it. I keep that book on my nightstand, dude. Serious. Stay on this page. So, it ain't a coincidence that they put Falcon Heavy on there. Hey, that's Lucy. That's the Lucy probe. Cool. SLS Block 1B with the Halo module. That's the Halo module from the Gateway. Cool. What is that? I don't know what that is. I don't know what Boeing put in this fairing for their promo, but I want it. I want that. Yeah, everyone here should read Failure is Not an Option. That's mandatory if you want to watch this stream. It's not, but if you really want to learn more about how spaceflight works and operations for spaceflight, it's really important. That's not Louvois. No way it came here. I don't think. It might be. Well, it might be. What is this? I want to know what the heck that thing is. Is that a nuclear vessel? Nice, Forge. Can you link this PDF? Sure. This is from Boeing proper, guys. Boeing released this saying that SLS is a good roadmap
Discovery, go at
for a
throttle.
launch vehicle for the next 10 to 15, and I'm in. This is a good idea. Dang it! Did you just give us homework? Yep. Got it for Christmas. There you go. Looks like compacted radiator panels. Yep. Is a book report due next week? No, you don't need a book report. If you want to understand the subjects and pretend like I'm not speaking Japanese all the time, then yes. Well, no, but actually, yes. Yeah, see. co-manifest this, carrying the ascent module. That's a good idea. I like that a lot too. NASA's lunar missions. The first woman and next man to the moon. SLS is the only rocket that can launch Orion for unprecedented access to the moon. I mean, right now, yeah, sure. I love these drawings, or these renders. These renders are awesome. Orion crewed spacecraft. Launch Orion to deliver the SLS capabilities. Super heavy lift for deep space. That's what that is. That's not an ascent. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Exploration upper stage provides the largest payload capacity and reduced operations complexity for the lowest mission risk. I know what that is. No, don't, Boeing, don't you freaking dare dangle this in front of me, you piece of crap. Why is NASA offering SLS to NSSL? I didn't see anything like that in here thus far, to be honest with you. You piece of crap. Don't you dare dangle that in front of me. I don't think it's a wet lab, but it's... Okay. Combining missions in a single launch streamlines operations for safety. That's correct. Large payload capacity simplifies element designs and lowers costs. Launch vehicle versus vehicle architecture versus mission architecture. Right there. There's the trades. Since retirement of the shuttle, only the SLS Block 1B allows co-manifesting of crew and large payloads. A universal stage adapter supports Orion and provides an enclosed protected volume for payloads. Only the SLS Block 1B can launch a crew Orion to the moon with up to 12 additional metric tons, such as a habitat logistics module or lander. Don't you dare. SLS Block 1B lift capacity, 12 metric tons plus 27. See, the thing is, 27 tons for Orion and 12 metric tons for a lander. I don't think 12 metric tons is enough. How much mass was the limb, just off the top of my head? 16. See what I'm talking about? Oh, you need to hit that 45 tons TLI, man, and then this thing will be amazing. Maybe with the BOLE program they can hit that number. I'm telling you, 45 tons translunar injection is the magic number to be able to get to the surface and back. SLS's go for a 2033 crew Mars flyby. Every 15 years, Mars and Earth orbit presents the unique opportunity for a free return flyby of Mars. The super heavy lift SLS makes it possible to launch astronauts for the first human encounter with Oh, you. Don't say this. Sustainable Mars presence. What the hell is this? 2033 crew Mars flyby launched by SLS enables the first-hand human experience in critical data to later land humans and build a long-term sustainable output. Yeah, see, this is where SLS could really, really, really work. SLS, you could use this to launch deep space probes, and don't get me wrong, you can use other rockets to launch deep space probes. That's just fine. SLS can get those probes to these planets faster. Faster. A good example of that would be, okay, say we want to go study Venus's climate. SLS's launch window for being able to send something to Venus, like a climate observatory or an atmospheric observatory, something that could help us better understand climate change here on Earth. SLS can do that more often. And that's why I think it's great for science missions. Even the Block 1. The Block 1 is really good for that. For launching probes. Not necessarily bigger probes, but launching similar sized probes further so you could get them into space. Well, not further, faster. You could get them to their destinations quicker. So you'd be able to, I don't know, research climate science a lot faster. Just saying. Enceladus lander is in the PDF. It's a good idea. It's a really good thing for deep space probes and probe insertion. It's perfect. Deep space probe insertion. Where there's water, there may be life. Oh, See what I'm talking about? Not necessarily a bigger a bigger payload, but a same size payload further. That's the same kind of idea with Falcon Heavy. SLS can launch a 4.1 metric ton high science mission to reach Enceladus with more mass and in only 6 years, faster than any of the rockets. See what I'm talking about? Didn't even read this PDF. It would also increase the launch number, decreasing the cost, right? Yeah, sneaky. And I would like to remind everybody that because SLS's production line is pretty much good to go at this point, that you can do all this for not much more money and also fund Starship at the same time. It's not mutually exclusive. It never was, okay? You can, dude, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that people wanted less rockets, right? Like, that's what I mean. This capability is too good to pass up. Too good to pass up. Way too good to pass up. Once again, the return on investment for NASA isn't necessarily cash. The return on investment is the science. It always has been. That's why we send people to other planets. Or, well, that's why we will send people to other planets. That's what, not necessarily the reason we did it the first time around when we sent people to the moon. Moon's not a planet. I understand that. Don't get technical on me. I'll slap you. But this will offer tremendous scientific capabilities. Heck, Sneaky, you could have a rideshare mission with this if you really wanted to. You could rideshare this sucker. And you could send, like, if you're going to send stuff to Mars, man, you could send stuff to Mars, and then if the phasing was right, you could send stuff to Mars and Ceres in the same dang launch. You can rideshare missions to different planets with SLS. That's how good of a lifter it is for exploration. It's a really good piece of equipment. And don't get me wrong, just in case anybody's gonna come in here and say this, or just in case anybody came into the stream right now, I'm not saying that Starship is bad. Alright? I'm saying I want both. I'm a greedy bastard, man. I want both of these things. It's pretty bad. Like, is that bad? I don't want one rocket. I want all the rockets! Okay. SLS launch of a lander investigates Titan's atmosphere and surface features, including large hydrocarbon lakes in search of living organic matter. Yeah, if Enceladus or Titan is where life's going to be if we can find it. Do you think if Russia gets a super heavy rocket going, that NASA would buy commercial usage of it for Artemis? Do you think if Russia gets a super heavy rocket going, that NASA would buy commercial usage of it for Artemis? Yeah? Yeah. Sultrat, the only thing that's gonna make that happen is somebody with good Rule 8 prowess. Seriously. If you can sell the Russians on being a mutual partner in the Artemis program, for instance, like they're a mutual partner on the ISS can't function without the Russian segment. That's all Roscosmos really has wanted. That's all they've wanted. That's what Dmitry said, and whether you want to read more or less into that is really up to you. Dmitry Rogozin said that he'd love to be a part of the Artemis program, but why would he be a part of a program where everyone is launching on SLS and he surrenders his own program? He surrenders his production lines that keep his constituents employed, thereby having his Russian workers make less money. Why would he do that? He wants to be a mutual partner. And if they want to be a mutual partner in it, using the NSA to launch stuff to Gateway, launching modules to Gateway, or people to Gateway, I'm totally on board with that. The only thing that's going to make that happen, though, Sultrat, I think, is somebody being able to speak Rule 8 real well and sell everyone on this idea. But that's just me. I think that boat has sailed. Demon, you think that boat has sailed? An MOU is basically nothing. Saying you have an MOU is a memorandum of understanding. Basically, you want to do this and I want to do this, but it's not a formal commitment by any means. There have been MOUs in the past that have been signed that nothing came of. So just take that into account. An MOU doesn't mean that it's for sure. Just like Russia saying that we might pull out of the International Space Station, everybody took that as gospel and then said, oh, the Russians going to pull out of the International Space Station. The reality of the situation, after I did some digging, is that no, that's not the case. They said they might pull out of the ISS, and even if they do, what that means is they're not going to, the ISS segment will not be state funded. So if somebody like the U.S., for instance, wants to keep the ISS going, they'll pay Roscosmos to keep the Russian segments maintained instead of it coming out of their national budget. It makes sense. They're trying to commercialize their part of the space station just like NASA is. Makes perfect sense to me. They're like, once again, I have to like take my American biased cap and put it over here when I'm trying to understand what Dmitry wants for his space program, you know? It's kind of vital to my analysis here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my America cap. It's my favorite cap. But yeah, Demon, an MOU with China just basically means that, yeah, we might work with you in the future on this. That's basically what that means in plain English. Edited for the Falcon Heavy extended fairing. Right on. I thought the America hat was glued on. Predominant, it's my favorite hat. By a long shot. That doesn't mean it's glued on, but it's my favorite hat. I like my country, man. I'm not going to apologize for it. Shoot. I'm not going to apologize for that. Understandable. Have a nice day. Okie dokie. So, what else do we got? A Titan lander here? Yeah, I don't hate that. Reaching unexplored regions of space. SLS launches a robust, high-science return spacecraft to explore areas never before seen. So this seems like all the case circumstances that SLS can use to launch small probes further and faster into space, which is true. Oh, you pricks. Don't you frickin' dangle this in front of me. Don't you dangle this candy in front of me. How dare you? Is that a Delta 4 stage on... Oh, you. Pieces of crap. Why would you stop this? Boeing, stop this madness. That's an EUS with an ICPS on top. Frick you, you pieces of frick, you frickin' fricks. You fricking fricks! When will you learn? Oh. Can we put like an Orion on top of this? Can we do that? Can we put an Orion on top of that configuration of SLS? Is that a thing? Can we do that? Would need a modified mobile launcher though. But not that much modified. And NASA already paid for an ICPSU. They already have the Delta IV upper stage umbilical. It's just moving it and extending the pipe. Seriously, it's that the expensive part was making it. I mean, it's not a Centaur fill, but it's close. That's a Delta IV upper stage. So the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. It's a Delta IV upper stage with that RL-10B that I was talking about for the people that have been watching Space News for a little while. That has the RL-10B with the extendable nozzle. 463 second specific impulse in vacuum. 463. That's like the equivalent of saying I get 200 miles to the gallon with a rocket motor. Could this work? Could it work? I have no idea. What I will tell you though, T-Man, is that this is a Boeing official document. Look at the URL. This is coming from Boeing.com. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that they wouldn't put this in a PDF if they weren't sure. Holy crap, would that be cool. Can we put an Orion on top of this? Can we have SLS core stage, then EUS, and then ICPS, and then Orion on top of that? Can we do that? Is that doable? That'll get you your Orion to low lunar orbit and then some. Oh, you pieces of crap, don't do this to me. I love it. Just keep scrolling. Low TWR but high mileage. Sounds like a smart car. Yeah, FaZe, FaZe, the thing about rocket engines is that it's not mutually exclusive. With cars, you generally trade horsepower for... You generally trade like a high performance engine for a low performance engine that's really efficient. The beauty of rockets is that you don't have to do that. With rockets, you can have an engine that makes 200 miles, that gets 200 miles to the gallon, that makes 1,000 horsepower. The Saturn V second and third stage is a very good case for this. Yeah, absolutely. And Delta IV as well. Yeah, with rockets, yeah, you can do either one. You can have a high horsepower, highly efficient engine. It's totally doable. The shuttle engines are a very good example of that as well. Protecting our planet from master. You bastards, don't do this to me. SLS delivers the exploration upper stage with attached solar electric propulsion to an Earth-threatening asteroid and exerts gravity. Oh, they want to arm with the... Oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop this. You stop this nonsense. By interacting with a potentially dangerous... What is this? SLS launch of the Lavor's 8-meter diameter optic telescope mirror as a single piece eliminates the complexity and cost of deploying a multi-segmented folded mirror. Oop, taking shots at James Webb now. Space-based observations. Oh, don't you Sustainable lunar presence. SLS Block 1B makes it possible to deliver a cargo lander and fully outfitted lunar habitat in a single launch. Is something like this a hey, we're still relevant with SpaceX and others coming online and making progress? It's not hey, we're still relevant. It's hey, this is what we could do with what you already have. What you already have is the operative word, Denny, but yeah. Lots of dreams here. These aren't dreams, dude. I will just go ahead and say outright, these aren't dreams. We've already overcome the major technical hurdle for SLS. You know what it was? That. The core stage. The core stage and the 5 segs. That's the hard part. I'm serious. Getting out of Earth's grav well is the hard part. So these aren't dreams. These aren't aspirations. This is all very feasible mission architecture. And I'm not saying that as a Boeing fanboy or anything. I call it fair. Starship also is a good way to do this. But once again, I'll just go back to it, Denny. I don't want to choose. I don't think we have to choose. I don't think we should choose. I want both of these things. The hard part is getting out of Rule 8's grav well. In Demon, we already have that with SLS, and we just happen to have a guy that's NASA administrator that's very good at speaking Rule 8 from what I've seen. Right? Feasible versus making it happen. This is all feasible. Guys, this stuff, not that seriously from a technical view, it's not as complicated as building the lifter. The lander might be. The lander would be a little bit on the complicated side, but you can't tempt me with a good time, you pieces of crap. Oh, this is the constellation solution. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I want more of this. I want more of this, and I want more Starship. I want all the rockets. I'm greedy. Please, more rockets. Can we have more? What is that? Okay, this part might be the more aspirational things. The power of SLS makes it possible to harness the power of the sun to provide clean energy for Earth. Are we sure this isn't the thing from Die Another Day? I'm a fire in my laser. Wait, does this mean that Reagan wasn't kidding with SDI? Does this mean that we can fire our lasers from space? Yeah, microwave transmission to solar power. Yeah. That's not a far-fetched idea. This isn't lasers, it's beam power. Can it be a laser just because I want it to be a laser, Raja? And can I just pretend that that could like fry someone from orbit? Can we just pretend that because that's cooler? Can I just have, all I want is a freaking shark-shaped satellite with freaking laser beams on its head? Can you just tell me it's a laser to make me feel better? Yeah, I know there's a difference. I know it was more of a joke, but yeah, okay. It's a microwave. You'll be cooked. Nice. All I want is to have tendies and put them in a plate outside and have a satellite cook it for me. Is that so hard to ask? Buy a microwave? Why do that when you could have a satellite make tendies for you? That's way cooler. Jeez. All right. National security. SLS launches U.S. power into deep space with the world's most powerful rocket to deliver unmatched capability into orbit. I don't know why I read it in that voice, but can we read this part in this voice? National security. Mission. We're going to leverage NASA's investment in super heavy lift capability for national security programs. And we're going to reduce the launch availability risk for existing program. Wait, what? We're going to reduce the... We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here. That interstellar probe configuration would give a one-ton probe 8,700 meters a second at delta V after already being put on TLI. Yeah, Demo, I don't hate that. Leverage NASA investment in SLS super heavy lift capability for national security and reduce launch availability risk for existing programs. Mission purpose: a whole of government approach as opposed to a half of government. Benefits the U.S. government by minimizing duplication. With more than triple the performance of any other rocket, SLS provides capability for the Department of Defense and other agencies supporting national security objectives. SLS performance extends operating reach, provides resilience for existing systems, and allows rapid reconstruction of constellations. SLS Block 1B has performance margin to launch the heaviest and most demanding missions and visions for national security. SLS Block 1B provides alternative launch for national security heavy lift, enabling assured access into space. That's kind of a stretch. This is kind of a stretch. Look, I'm not one to, be like, yeah, okay, but, yeah, okay. If you don't speak marketing speak, they're basically saying that they could use SLS to... Okay, now look. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually not a bad idea. Okay. All right. Okay. No. Never mind. I get it. I get what they're saying. Whole of government approach, meaning open up SLS to be able to launch national security payloads. Now, what does that mean? Do we need a bigger rocket to launch national security payloads? And the answer is no. No, we do not. However, as long as you have that rocket with that capability, it would be good to use. For the same reason why it's good to not launch a bigger probe to deep space, but a smaller probe that can get there faster, right? For instance, if SLS launched with 8 global positioning satellites, actually 6 global positioning satellites, you could basically replenish, you could basically get GPS back up to full operational capability. You could completely roll out a new generation of global positioning satellites, and with 6 SLS launches, you could basically rebuild an entire GPS network. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Because the global positioning satellite system is 36 satellites, give or take. 36 satellites in 6 different orbits, repeating it, of course, with different longitude of ascending nodes. Here, I'll show you. Long story short, if we go over to stuff in .space, right? This is the United States Global Positioning Satellite System called Navstar, all right? Navstar has 6 satellites per orbit, right? Some of them don't have to be exact, but it's 6 satellites per orbit in 6 different orbits, right? Think of it like proto-Starlink. SLS could replenish one of these rings in one shot. Easily in one shot. Yeah, it wouldn't even be fair. This SLS could do in one shot what would take probably 5 years and 5 Atlas launchers or 5 equivalent national security launch vehicle. So like Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, Atlas Vulcan, Delta. It could basically do it in one shot. Which is, you could rebuild a new global positioning satellite system in 6 years. You could update it and come out with a brand new version. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, why is GPS being used for defense? What are you talking about? Well, the global positioning satellite system, satellite navigation, all right, GPS, and it doesn't matter if it's our Navstar or GLONASS, which is the Russians, Galileo, which is the Europeans, and Beidou, which is the Chinese. It doesn't matter. They're all made for defense. They're all made for defense spending. The Global Positioning Satellite System, the original GPS constellation that that the Department of Defense and the Air Force rolled out in the late 80s, was pretty much designed so the U.S. could in real time see where every single one of the U.S. Navy ships were on the Earth at any given moment. That's what satellite navigation was made for. It's a byproduct of defense spending. So next time you're using satellite navigation in your car, take that into account. It's defense spending, man. But they use it for better situational awareness. That technology ended up finding its way into the civilian market, and in the late 90s, you started seeing global positioning satellite navigation systems being incorporated into cars, right? Late 90s, early 2000s as an attachment, and then by the end of the 2010 or by the end of the early 2000s, they were pretty much standard option on every car. If it fails, though, that's a huge loss. Yeah, but Phil, would you agree with me that a rocket that's human rated is much less likely to fail? Right? Much less likely to fail? No? Space Herb? I think that after a couple of Artemis missions, or a lot of Artemis missions, doing something like this, once SLS has proven that it is reliable based off of the data, and I think it is because it's based off of shuttle legacy systems, to be honest with you. I think if they can prove its human rating, right, which they will basically after Artemis 1, if they can prove that it's safe enough for humans, right, I'm pretty sure they can prove that it's safe enough for global positioning satellites. But you also got to take into account, Phil, that they would be mass producing global positioning satellites. Instead of building 1 satellite a year and launching it to recruit GPS-3 or rebuild GPS-3, right, you would be producing 6 in parallel. And you could build those 6 satellites in parallel and the entire mission under defense spending, which in return will help you subsidize SLS to the taxpayer, thereby lowering the cost of SLS in launching it more, and also you're roping some Department of Defense funds to keep SLS working and bolster its infrastructure. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually not a real bad way to do that. Once again, yeah, if it does fail, yeah, then you're out a lot of money. Yeah, you're out a lot of money. People get careless after time. That's right, Geeson. And I know people are saying like, oh, one SLS launch is going to be $1 billion, which is not true. That's total cost involved, and if you launch more, the price is going to go down. So let's play off the notion that like an SLS is, with carrying 6 global positioning satellites with an EUS is going to carry, I don't know, it's going to be like 600-700 million. Let's say 600 million, okay? 600 million, that's 1 million per satellite launch, right? Right now, global positioning satellites work on Atlas, and they will work on Atlas, and they will work on Vulcan, and they work on Delta. I believe that they could, any one of those can launch global positioning satellites. In that particular case, in that scenario, even taking into account a $600 million price tag, it's still cheaper. Because it doesn't matter with spaceflight, if you rideshare missions, it's always going to be cheaper. That could end up giving you a net better price than launching one satellite at a time on one rocket, building 6 of those rockets over 6 years, right? Yeah, you get a heavier price tag, but you pay for it. It's sticker shock, but once again, that's the entire mission right there. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that leveraging some defense spending for a NASA-based rocket is a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. It's a really good idea, actually. Yeah. Now, I'd be remiss to say that that has its benefits and it has its losses. The last time the Department of Defense got involved with a NASA launch vehicle, I'm not going to say that it didn't end well, because the Department of Defense had a lot of say on the space shuttle's design, because they wanted one launch vehicle to do everything, right? The shuttle was supposed to do everything, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that partnership, which is what gave us the shuttle in the first place, didn't end particularly bad. But when Challenger happened in 1986, the Air Force promptly said, no, we're going to use expendable launch vehicles, and then started the EELV program, which gave us Atlas and Delta, Atlas 5 and Delta 4. I'm not going to sit here and say that isn't a double-edged sword. I'd be remiss to say that. That has its pros and it has its cons in the past. But also, if you go back to the Apollo program, the Air Force had their own manned space program before the 1967 Space Treaty. It was called Gemini Manned Orbiting Laboratory. The Air Force basically wanted to take the Gemini capsule and use it for their own thing. And then, after the 67 Space Treaty was signed, all of the resources that were being used for Gemini MOL ended up finding their way into the Apollo program. So it has its plus and it has its minuses. And I'm going to go ahead and say that if you take what happened with Gemini MOL and the Apollo program and what happened with the shuttle program, which one of these is closer to the current kind of set of details, right? I would say the one that's closer is Gemini MOL and Apollo, rather than the shuttle being a DoD and a NASA creation. It's closer to that one. So in the case of Apollo and Gemini MOL, it does make sense. Does sense do what make more like? So who knows? I don't mind. This is actually not a bad idea. You could build the GPS faster. It would be a little bit more expensive in the beginning, but you could build it faster. What exactly is Rule 8? Farnight, Rule 8 is one of my stream rules. It's really against talking about politics. And now I should probably add a caveat to that at this point. I don't mind talking about politics. It's political rhetoric that I really don't like. We could sit here, like, okay, for instance, this afternoon, Farnight, we watched a House Appropriations Committee with NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, right? And that's plenty of politics right there, but it's space policy, right? I don't mind sitting here and having a civilized discussion about spaceflight policy. It's the rhetoric that gets associated with politics that pisses me off. Basically, what you see on Twitter. Any thread about politics on Twitter is exactly what Rule 8 is referring to. I should probably specify it at this point, but I don't mind discussing policy. I mind discussing politics. So if I said, do you like X politician? I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that at all. I will talk spaceflight policy with you guys, and that's pretty much it. I don't really deal with any other type of policy ever, right? So once again, the politics rule I should probably clarify at this point, but Rule 8 refers to any it's just basically my word for politics, because the stream has no political rhetoric rule, you know. Does that make sense? Oh, I got you. I thought it was a funding rule. No. Yeah, that's just my stream rules. But yeah, once again, it's political rhetoric I don't like. Oh man, did you guys see what this guy did? I hate this guy. Does anybody else hate this guy? That is generally a counterintuitive discussion because you're not discussing policy. And not everybody here is a political science major, so it's really hard to kind of, if you want to discuss the merits of or demerits of any particular politician. Yeah, I don't want to get into that here. If you want that kind of discussion, my buddy I'm Really Important, who is another Knowledge Fellowship streamer, specifically deals with that. The only political science that I dabble in on this stream has to do with space policy, and that's where I leave it. And space policy is something that we come up with together. So I'm not necessarily talking about one individual person over another. I'm talking about the program as a whole. It's policy, not politics, right? I thought it was a U.S. politics thing. I mean, it's basically political rhetoric for anywhere, so I think there's a lot of static when it comes to understanding politics in this day and age. And whether we like it or not, people really seem to like getting their news from social media. And I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing, but I don't. That's for sure. And I don't want to discuss that kind of stuff either, because that's very subjective when you're talking about people that just make up stuff on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever. And I'm not knocking Twitter or Facebook either. I get a lot of good news. There's a lot of great space news coming out of Twitter. I cite Twitter probably 20 to 30 times a day during the space news segment. It's a great way to get space news. It's just all the bullcrap that gets associated with that. You have to take the good and the bad, you know? Yeah, Xeon, yeah. You know, like, I don't know, dude. It's just, I don't have time for that rhetoric, man. I just want to learn about space, and sometimes that means diving into space policy. I get my space news from social media. I mean, so do I, Demo, for what it's worth. Space news is like impervious to that stuff. The only thing that you have to deal with is fanboys of one particular rocket over another. In which case, dude, I can't stand those people. I can't stand them any more than you'd get fanboys over any particular political subject, dude. It's really annoying, and it's counterintuitive, and it's wasting people's time. And what I don't want to do here as a streamer is waste your time. This is awesome. Guys, I think my favorite thing that I saw from this is this one. This one right here. I just really want to see an SLS reusability program. That would be nice. T-Man, where we are at this particular point in time, and don't get me wrong, it's subject to change. Our capability in space is always evolving. Where we are at this time, you have to pick one. Do you want to be able to access the moon in a timely manner and expend a rocket, or do you want to be able to wait some time and work on on-orbit refueling, not because it's impossible, not because it's a bad idea, but because it's going to take some time to engineer that out? Do you want to wait? You want to wait now, or do you want to do? You want to get to the moon with ways that we already know how to get to the ways that we already know how to, i.e. the kind of taking pages out of Apollo's book, or do you want to wait to develop a new type of technology to get to the moon? Personally, T-Man, I think that the reality of that situation is that you don't have to choose. You could choose both of those things and then get to the moon now and later. Yeah, that's where I've always stood on that. I'm very, very clear about that. If you use Jupiter, that interstellar probe could get almost 0.01% the speed of light. Demo, I think SLS, this SLS applications pamphlet, I guess, is a really cool idea. I like this one. I really like this
Discovery,
one a lot.
go at throttle up.
I really like this one a lot. You know what would be even better? Sitherly, Tier 3, 14-month resub. Thank you for everything you provide. My pleasure, man. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. Can you link this, Doc? I have to go in a second, but I want to read through it. Yeah, someone, you'll like what's going on in here. I mean, I literally said at the beginning of this beginning of this PDF that Orion not being able to get to low lunar orbit is not a good thing. That will solve that problem. Yes, that will solve that problem very well. Yeah, that's a really good way to do that. Actually, you know what I'd really want in here? Aces. Vulcan aces on top of this would be... Orion in that configuration wouldn't fit inside of the VAB. The VAB can be expanded. Yeah, you didn't know that? The VAB is a Lego kit, dude. It seriously is. They built it like Legos. That's entirely on purpose. So basically the roof can be expanded to make bigger rockets. You needn't look no further than a picture of it. See those white posts? Load-bearing members. You can make this thing taller if you really wanted to. You can extend the roof. They built that into the design in the 60s. And that's coming right from... That came directly from... Before people say, how do you know that? All right, how do you know that? Come on. Now, I'm not going to say the guy's name because I'm not going to name drop some random guy that works at NASA. Let's just say the guy that got me this picture. Let's say the guy that got me this picture told me that. Mobile launchers and VABs are designed to be able to be expanded. You can just build them higher if you really want to. Yeah, the guy that took this picture told me this. You know Von Braun. Von Braun is dead. Decent. Now, I don't know. I might not sell people on that, but... Yeah, turns out when you're 305 feet up in the air and you can look down through the floor because it's grading, yeah, it gets you get a little bit of vertigo for a second. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I wasn't scared. It was cold and windy. The entire mobile launcher was doing this. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that I wasn't scared out of my mind. Seriously, I was freaking out. I'm not afraid to say that. First time you went up there, you would, unless you had experience with sitting and standing in high places, that level where the picture was took was level 305 of the mobile launcher. That's 305 feet up. A little under 100 meters, guys. It's a long way. Yeah, Geeson, if I did it more and more, I would have gotten used to it. But the first time, I'm like... Oh, dude, I'm telling you. I looked down and went, oh, and I got vertigo instantly. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Yeah, man. It is what it be, so it do. Yeah, but demo, the VAB can be expanded. And I seem to recall a certain NASA administrator in a certain House Appropriations Committee talking about roping some of the infrastructure bill and jobs bill for NASA facilities. Just saying. Yeah, Geeson, I know what you mean. That day it was cold and windy. Cold for Florida. It was like 50 degrees and windy and raining. Oh yeah, so the floor was slippery as well. Oh no, I was holding on. I wimped out. I'm not even gonna sit here and say I didn't. But yep. Check it out. See the VAB? This is a picture from the 60s. The VAB, you could just keep adding these truss segments higher and higher and higher. Yep. And the mobile launchers are the same exact way as well. You could just keep adding these red segments right here. Just keep adding them. You can make them taller. It's no problem. Wouldn't that shut down SLS stacking for years if they went through with that? Extend one of the high bays you're not using. Demo, I'm telling you, man. Apollo, during the Apollo program, they friggin' thought of everything. They thought of everything. That's part of the reason why the VAB has 4 high bays. Seriously. You don't need to extend the entire roof. Why would... You don't need to do that. Extend one of the high bays. Extend the other high bay. That's why they built 4 high bays and 2 pads. You know what I'm saying? There's ways to do this. Like, there's ways to do this. It's incredibly smart. They, like, the foresight. Somebody said it in chat. The foresight that they had in the 60s was unreal. Von Braun pitched all this stuff, and all this stuff got built anticipating a drastically expanded space program. Did they overbuild the foundation to support this structure? Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The crawlerway, the pads, the VAB, everything about that launch complex is over-engineered big time for a Saturn, even for a Saturn V. Oh, yeah. Guys, this thing is designed for Nova. It's designed to launch the Nova rocket. That was their spec. They took what they thought building a Saturn Nova would take and built the entire thing around that to be 100% sure that it would be able to withstand the Saturn V. Fellas, look. See that rocket right there? That thing is heavy. It's heavy even if it doesn't have any fuel in it. It's even heavier with fuel in it. Right? The crawlerway, you want to know how overbuilt this thing is? The crawlerway can take this configuration. The crawlerway can move this to the pad. Now, can anybody tell me why this thing right here would weigh drastically more than a Saturn V coming out of the VAB? Yeah, Kyron, exactly. The SRBs. Each one of those SRB segments weighs 50 tons. Each segment, 50 tons. And there's 5 of them. That's 250-ton boosters attached to the side. That's 250 tons is what? That's 250,000 kilograms or 500, almost 600,000 pound boosters. It can move that, no problem. Did anybody else not notice this? How you could just move that to the pad? Oh yeah, we're good. Just build a new mobile launcher, move it to the pad, everything's fine. I'm telling you, all this stuff was overbuilt. All of it. Every part of the VAB, from the freaking roof all the way down to the foundation, is built to be able to withstand something that's like 3 times the size of Saturn V, or weight in this particular case. They anticipated a huge freaking expansion of rocket of NASA. The Apollo program was built basically to get us to the surface of the moon and so much more. Yeah, they built it with the understanding that we were gonna, do Venus flybys, go to Mars, and have a sustainable presence on the moon. Can it transport your mom to Walmart? No, but it could transport your mom to low Earth orbit, not necessarily the moon. Yeah. Didn't they build it for Nova? Yep. It's all overbuilt. That's right, silly. That's what happens if you let the space program go unabated. If you just kind of let them do their thing, give them a good deadline, let them do their thing, and appropriately fund it. Keep in mind, that high price tag for Apollo comes from NASA running the Gemini program and the Apollo program at the same time. 2 manned spaceflight programs being developed in-house. And the first time to do it, nonetheless. That's why we can have Falcon 9 with Crew Dragon, Atlas V with Starliner, SLS with Orion, Dream Chaser. That's why we can have all this stuff kind of working in parallel, because only one of them is developed in-house, so to speak. Right? The other ones are commercial options. So you could have, guys, we're on the verge of basically having a Gemini program, a space shuttle program, and an Apollo program all happening at the same time in the same decade. I don't know what else you want. Yeah, 2 Gemini programs, Synerd, exactly. Yeah. 2 Gemini programs. The shuttle program, because Starship is basically going to do anything and everything that a shuttle can do and more. And also having something like the Apollo program as well. We are in the next 5 years, all those capabilities will be operational. Some of them already are, like Dragon 2. Starliner will be operational by the end of this year. I can say that with pretty utmost confidence. I hope Boeing don't make me eat my words on that. Remind me of the Gemini program. Gemini program was a program that basically taught us all the building blocks that we would need to do the Apollo program. EVAs, on-orbit rendezvous, rendezvous docking, extravehicular activities, orbital capability. It taught us everything we need to know to have the building blocks for the Apollo program. It's a great example, Jackery, of one program springing off of the other. The three-phase AC rule for space programs that I like to mention. Jackery, were you ever here when I explained this three-phase AC rule? Does anybody know what three-phase AC current is? Not how to space 101, how to fund space. Anybody here electrical? Anybody here know about electrical? So three-phase AC is what we use for industrial power. It was invented by Nikola Tesla. Three-phase alternating current. Long story short, electrical power is transmitted on a frequency, right? And that frequency is sinusoidal. It dips, right? So if you were using, even if you're using alternating current, or, well, actually, I don't know if you could do three-phase DC. Yeah, three-phase DC sounds like you can do that. I'm not too well phased in electrical, but you're transmitting on a sine wave, so that means you get dips in power. So if you had a light bulb, right, and it was on single phase, it would go, it would be a strobe light. Three-phase AC is what we use for all industrial power. Three-phase AC looks like this. It's 3 different electrical signals wound into one, so you theoretically never have a dip in, not theoretically, you never have a dip in power. Every single industrial application is using this all over the world. Everyone. Doesn't matter if you're in Vietnam making cars, or you're SpaceX making rockets in Hawthorne, or your fine European chocolates. They all, in their factory, to manufacture all those things, they use three-phase AC. Everyone uses this. Your PC runs in that, right? No, I believe there's an inverter. There's an inverter in the power supply for a PC that converts AC to DC, and your computer runs off direct current, I think. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong here. A normal outlet only delivers one phase AC, correct. Yeah, okay, that sounds right. All right, cool, I got it right, nice. It's on 120, not three-phase. Your power supply outputs direct current to the inside, and you're getting single-phase AC into your computer. So somewhere in your computer's power supply is an AC inverter that converts alternating current to direct current, and then all the components on your computer use DC. I'm telling you, how a computer is made and how a car is made in terms of wiring, not that far off. I've wired both of those things for what it's worth. See last. PC uses a diode bridge confirmed AC to DC. Oh, there you go. Cool. So, how does this three-phase AC apply to funding? Well, you fund one program, right? You start one program like Gemini, right? And then immediately after that program gets started, you fund another program like Apollo. One program peaks, the other program goes up. This program moves to operational missions. So the Gemini program, right? Gemini missions. All the Gemini missions go to here, right? And you keep going here. Apollo missions ramp up. Your first manned Apollo missions in 1968 happen right here. And your last Gemini mission happens down here. And then you have basically the closeout of the Gemini program. And then the Apollo program keeps going, right? And then you ramp up another program. So now you have the Apollo applications program. That was the follow-up to the Apollo program. Phase 3, right, for the Apollo applications program was basically taking everything that we learned from Phase 2 and using it to establish a sustainable presence in space. Right here, right there, is where we said, no, we can't keep doing this. This is too expensive. And then we went all the way down here. And then the arc for the space shuttle program peaked somewhere over here. Yeah, it went up like that and then it went down again. This is how you fund NASA appropriately. Because, yes, you incur huge costs to start a program, but this way means that the funding never ever stops. You can keep the funding nice and straight, and that's easier to sell. And here I thought you were explaining three-phase power. I am explaining three-phase power. In that three-phase AC alternating current is the exact way that you show budget for a space program, and it's the exact way that space program's budget needs to be set up. It's just like three-phase power. It's the same thing. That's how you do that. Right now, NASA is trying to do that. We are ramping up the Artemis program, or at least attempting to, if people in Congress will fund it. That's what Bill was trying to do today. And then there's another program that not a lot of people might know about called the Moon to Mars program, or just Moon to Mars. I call it MTM, right? Moon to Mars got on the books last year, and Moon to Mars is down here. So as Artemis is ramping up, this one's going to ramp up. As Artemis ramps down, Moon to Mars will ramp up. Keep in mind, the other thing to note is that just because a program ramps down here doesn't necessarily mean you have to conclude that program. The Artemis program can keep going while Moon to Mars is going up. You know why? Operational missions for rockets do not cost as much as research and development. So if this thing comes down here and the low point peaks right around here, or low point stops right around here, right? You compound that on top of this and your funding curve just steadily goes up over time. A politician can fake people out and say, "Oh yeah, we're just compensating for inflation there. That's why NASA's budget slowly goes up." It's a way to work. We are watching the F-150 reveal. With that being said, that's just a little bit on funding. Here, I'm going to cap off space news with this. You guys will like this. You guys like what's the name of that thing where you're afraid of things with lots of holes in them? Not much, Hellfish. It would be no more than the ISS. It's just the means to get there. Yeah, tryptophobia. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, warning. Tryptophobia warning. Because Mary took a picture of this today. All right, Celtic. Thank you. Tripophobia, holesophobia is what I'm going to call it from now on. That right there looks to be some type of prototype for super heavy plumbing. Yeah. That's the bottom. That's the splitter, basically, the manifold for super heavy to move all the propellants to however many Raptor engines are going in the bottom of that thing. It's the internet. It's a series of tube header pipes for a 77 Chevy, my guy. Is that a super heavy fuel delivery manifold? Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. I don't know if it's for liquid oxygen or liquid methane. I have no idea. But you can clearly see that it's designed to tee off of the thrust puck right there. Don't have time, Limprod. We'll look at it another day. So this is coming from NASA Space Flights, coming from Mary over at NSF. We won't do the Starship videos today. We'll do them tomorrow. How many Raptors are planned for this behemoth? I've heard anywhere between like 25 and 30, Jackery. That looks like a pain to make. Yeah. I'm not clicking on that, O-Force. All right, fine, I'll click on. Oh, stop that. Nope. I'm really, really upset that I did that now. Now I have that burned into my head. I don't know why I clicked on that. Great. Lovely. That's pretty cool. How the heck are you going to deal with the heat? The propellants are cold, man. Well, Jackery, what's the context of the question? What are you asking? I think he means with the number of raptors. Jackery, so you're talking about down at the bottom? The 20th raptors firing in sequence. Raptor engines have no problem operating next to each other, dude. It's really not a big deal. We see it all the time with Starship. Now, I get it. That is only 3. And Super Heavy will have more heat. But, Jackery, my guess is that whatever solution to that problem is, has already been incorporated into Raptor's design. You know how I know? SpaceX knew from the start that Super Heavy was going to have a lot of Raptors. So what I would do is take how many Raptor engines you think you need, times that by 1.5, right? And then do a theoretical calculation of how much heat that will radiate, and build your engine to that spec to make sure that it never has that it never is a problem. That's very, very typical SpaceX. That's what they do. They take how much they think they need, times it by 2, and build to that spec so they know they'll never exceed hardware capabilities. That's what they did with the Merlin engine. The Merlin engine was built from the start to be able to have its design stretched and its performance enhanced over time. Shuttle engines the same way. You ever hear them say shuttle engines operating at 109% of rated performance? That's what they mean. They mean that the engine was stretched out a little bit more to be able to perform more. Why do you think they'd be able to stretch out shuttle engines? Why do you think they'd be able to stretch that design out? Could it be because the engines were designed to be reused? Just like Merlin engines, or Merlin engines are just like shuttle engines in that regard, right? Raptors use film cooling. We know they use film cooling. Well, here, let's just take a look at Raptor plumbing. Raptor plumbing. Google image search for Raptor plumbing didn't really net me the result that I wanted. But we know that Raptor has a milled copper cooling jacket on the inside of the nozzle, like this. See that? And see the propellants, the cold propellants are tapped off from the turbo pump, right? And they go through the cooling jacket on the engines, all the way down to the end of the nozzle. That right there is why the engines can operate in high proximity. And knowing SpaceX, it's probably over-engineered. That's what they do. The reason why SpaceX can rapidly reuse this stuff and go through great lengths to, like reuse Merlins, for instance, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17 times at this point, including static fires, right, without being taken apart. The reason why they do that is because they over-engineered them. That's why there was the Merlin 1A, and then there was the 1B, and then there was the 1C, and then there was the 1D. And technically, the Merlin 1D has so many freaking iterations to it that it should be called the Merlin 1E. They changed that thing so much, but they were able to wring the design out real hard. That's good rocket engineering. Design what you think the rocket engine needs to do, and then design it for like double that, and your rocket engine never breaks. Pretty straightforward stuff, right? Scary, you're working on a down mass essay. Can't find anything for Starship's estimated down mass from low Earth orbit. Can you recall if that number has ever been said? No, Scary. I don't think SpaceX knows what that number is just yet. Why? Because they don't have a baseline down mass. Without a baseline down mass, you can't really, basically how much the vehicle gets down back to the ground with nothing in it. Yeah, it really depends on the delta V of those header tanks. If you can get a kind of a base value for a Starship that's orbital capable, right? If we could get a base mass for that, you could do calculations out to figure out how much delta V it has. We have basic specs on the Raptor engine, right? And if you can get the volume of the methane and the liquid oxygen header tanks, you could figure out how much propellant they could put in there theoretically at a certain pressure. You'd have to estimate the pressures, but if you do reasonable pressure estimations, right, you could figure out the delta V, and then you could kind of get the down mass. But at this point, there's a lot of variables in that whole thing. There's a lot of variables there. Who knows? How many engines will Super Heavy have? I've heard anything from 25 all the way up to 32. Scary, I'm going to go ahead and say that... Okay, let's just do 30 seconds of critical thought here. Starship is designed like an airplane, right? I'm pretty sure that's where SpaceX is going with this. They're trying to make a DC-3 that can fly into space. Or a 707, right? Now, with that being said, if you were designing Starship and you wanted Starship to be able to be as reliable as it is, would you basically, how do I say this? Would you design it to be able to have a certain down mass capability? No, not really. I mean, I wouldn't design around a particular down mass capability. I would make it so it can land, and the header tanks are a pretty good example. The header tank being in the design is telling me that it's not really designed around a particular down mass capability, but it is designed to take things down, right? Why would the header tank be where it is if it wasn't, right? The header tank is where it is so it can land on an empty with an empty payload bay. I'm pretty sure those wings are there on the sides of Starship. These things, they're there to be able to compensate for a differential center of mass during the final phases of landing. The flip and the burn, you know, people often, like, Scary, let's just look. Like I said, just some critical thinking. Like, if you look at it and you look at Starship, it uses RCS, it uses the control surfaces and the engines to actuate that move. Do you need all three of those to do that? No. The wings could do it. I'm pretty dang sure. Pretty dang sure the wings could do it by themselves. The fact that they're compounding all three of these to get a Starship to flip tells me that they're incorporating a little bit of redundancy in there, but also, and that could be the main reason, but also, if you had a forward center of mass, it'd be harder to turn that lever now, wouldn't it? I.e., if you had something in the payload bay. So how much down mass are they designing it for? Don't know. It will have down mass capability. I'll go out there and go out on the limb, and basically the result of that 30 seconds of critical thinking is that I have no idea. I have no idea what it's designed for. I'll bet you just from what I've seen and based off of just some common sense, if you were thinking about given information about what you know about Starship, that it is designed to bring something back down. It's designed to land on Mars with down mass. So I don't see why they wouldn't design that landing function also into something that's landing back on Earth, like, oh, I don't know, people, for instance. Now, in terms of what that number is, I don't know. I have no idea. If I was going to venture a guess, I would probably let's take 50 people and take the average weight of like a person and times that by 50, and then all the seats to hold all those people, times that by 2, and get a base number from there. That would probably give you a good idea, because Earth to Earth, right? They're obviously designing it with down mass capability. It's a very easy thing to see, right? You don't design an airplane to be able to fly cargo one way. In fact, the reason that airplanes are so useful is because you can fly cargo in two directions, right? You can fly it there and you can fly it back, right? So, yeah, you would want, yeah, it clearly has down mass capability. If I had to guess, I'd probably say 20 tons. That is a shot in the dark. I'll bet you it can take 20 tons back down. Yeah. Pray, you could do a guesstimate if I wanted to do the math out. Yeah, of course I could. I'm going to guess 20 tons. Just with what I've seen with Starship. 100 tons into low Earth orbit is where they're going, what they're going for. I'm going to get, yeah, I'll guess 20 tons. Yeah. I'll say it could bring 20 tons of payload down, and that's that's a very conservative estimate. In reality, it's probably more, because why would SpaceX design a rocket that could take 100 tons into space that could only take 20 tons down to the surface of Mars, for instance, or the moon, especially when they can refuel it? That makes no sense. Yeah, so I guess I would take all that into account, Scary. I mean, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable estimate, yeah. $20 tons of rare earth material that was farmed from space, would it be worth bringing back down to Earth? I mean, I don't think it's necessarily designed for one particular thing over the other. I'll bet you that's one of the byproducts. How about a scenario like this, where you have SLS upper stages going and mining asteroids, right? Because SLS, the EUS is really good at moving around in space, and it has RL-10s, so it's infinitely reusable as long as you have fuel. RL-10s just need hydrogen. The only thing that's going to prevent an RL-10 from restarting is physics. If physics breaks and your RL-10 doesn't restart, then you got some problems. Yeah, that's the only thing that'll keep those things from restarting. Yeah, you definitely don't want physics to take a dump. That would be a bad idea. Yeah, and by a bad idea, I mean that's impossible. So like the only thing that would get an EUS upper stage from not firing is like if it's near a black hole or something, you know, which is not happening anytime in our lifetime. So like you take an EUS and you drive an EUS out to an asteroid, it hauls the material back, right? Starship brings up hydrogen or whatever. It brings up hydrogen, it refuels the EUS, and then the EUS takes the payload, transfers it back to Starship, and brings it back down to Earth. It's not as far-fetched as you think. Seems right to me. And before people say, oh, why doesn't Starship just go all the way to the asteroids? What you're proposing is like saying tugboats move container ships around, so why don't tugboats just move the container ship's payload all the way across the ocean? Why use two ships when you could use one? That makes no sense, because they're application based. That's like saying, oh, a container ship shouldn't stop on water, we should just give it wheels and make it roll up onto land. That would be much more efficient. It's like, that's not really how that works. Yeah, just give a container ship wheels. Just have it make a container ship just an amphibious vehicle. It would have helped if it gets stuck in a canal, right? You just drive out. See, I'm a genius. Actually, we should. Yeah, it's a good idea. Nope, container ships getting stuck in the canal, no more. We'll just drive out. Yeah, why don't we just give it wings while we're at it and just launch the container ship into space? Wait, I want this. Oh crap. Why are we not funding this? Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to switch this over to KSP. We're going to do a little more work on the SSTO. And then in about 2 hours, I'm going to watch the F-150 Lightning reveal. Ooh. Yeah, Ford is rolling out its all-electric F-150. And I'm interested in seeing it. Yeah. I'm not biased at all. Work continues on the SSTO. Mission mode part 147. Could Starship move an asteroid? Sure. Depends on the asteroid team and depends on how big it is. I mean, an air cushion vehicle is basically just a ship that can also do land. I mean, so Synerd, should we just make container ships into gigantic freaking hovercraft and then have basically a highway that goes across land for container ships? You know what? I'll be honest with you. That sounds really cool. And that honestly sounds like something we should try. But also at the same time, there's a very good reason why we haven't done anything like that. And you know what, man?